Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your S.O.R. swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
People, an historic day in the United States as we have a major panel for you. As you can see the names, the places, and Christopher Sharpe's amazing hair. That's at least 3 bottles of Brill Cream right there. And we are hot to trot on the panel tonight over the U.S. Congress and their meeting information. Whatever the hell it was, we're getting to it tonight with a great panel. Before we bring everybody in, let's say hello to our fans in the chat room. Race fan in the gold medal position. Sweet Ann B taking home the silver. Acreon with a nice bronze medal tonight. Hi, Dutch Hank. Tits McGee is here, filling in for the vacationing Veronica Corningstone. Thank you. Mennonite Abe, how are you? Ken Brett is here. Ken Brett will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Gilbert, good to have you back. Luscious Jules, Mark Longoria, Dennis Zuniga, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Simply Coco is here. She's looking lovely tonight. What is your drink of choice tonight? Please let us know. And by the way, Simply Coco will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, to the right of the studio. DCYFA, welcome to S.O.R. Chat. Downshift, Peppa H, how are you? Thanks for joining us. Lip Blade, you're looking waxed tonight, buddy. Dirty Filth, nice to have you here. Patrick McGwier, thanks for coming on in. G West, good to see you back, my friend. Devin Arismana, thank you for joining us. Good morning, Robert Garcia. And there's one of our favorite veterans who listens to the show. Our man, Black Dragon, is back. We love him around here. And, of course, who else do we got? Raven is Ryan. Irish Lincoln. The lovely Dragonelle Stafford has returned. All right, here we go. More roll call coming at you as we have D. Worm, Stunning Sydney. And who else do we got here? Well, there's Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. Apparently, he's showing some leg tonight. All right, there we go. Moving on here, we have our good friend Desert Rat. Thanks for joining us. Oh, Simply Coco, Sangria, and Triple Sec for this important show tonight. The lovely Judy of Gaul has returned. And there's Supernova, Parasolo, how are you? Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby. Yeah, he's arrived. Scrub-a-dub-dub, Dragonelle, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you so much. Enzo Worsley, how you doing? Thank you for joining us as we continue on. We're going to try and fit all the roll call in here. Donnie Cho, Evan Walters, thank you for coming on in. Alien Critter, Ruger Ridge, thanks for joining us, guys. And Xochitl Paez looking gorgeous tonight. Worsley's looking gorgeous. Carfoon Ibre's looking gorgeous. And there's Human Carl. Human Carl's here, everyone. We love our Human Carl, another great veteran who listens to this show. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. Obi Flett, how are you? Good to have you here. The gorgeous Fidgety Aura, Marty Burback looking good tonight. Zenzabil looking stunning. Cable Guy Matt is here. You can officially get your Cable Guy Matt t-shirt at the Spaced Out Radio store. It comes with a piece of coaxial cable. You cannot buy these in stores, people. The lovely Sonia's News. How are you? And Noble Patrick, you're going to have to be the last one that we call out tonight. Oh, maybe it's TMI. But friends, it's time. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of S.O.R. headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are going the distance tonight after major news breaking in Washington, D.C., where the United States government held its first congressional hearings on the UAP phenomena in 50-plus years. Did we get any answers? Did we get any closer? Did they say they were aliens coming on down and hanging on out and partying with us in Las Vegas after parking their ship at Area 51? Well, that's to be determined. So we're going to skip all the conjecture and everything that goes along with it. Special night. We got a major panel here for you. We got them till the bottom of the hour. From the Liberation Times, we have Christopher Sharpe. From that UFO podcast, Jason Guillemette. Nice beard and mustache combination. From Strange Paradigms, Cristina Gomez. From MUFON, Katie Page. Science Bob McGwier. Back again for a second night in a row. He's changed hats for tonight. And Nicole Sakach, researcher, author, and business partner of Spaced Out Radio. Let's get right to it. And Christopher Sharpe, I'm going to start with you because I know we're on a limited with you tonight, my friend. But let's get right to it. What was your thoughts on today's hearings?
Well, thank you firstly for having me on. And yeah, this is a wonderful panel as well. So I'm really, really honored. So yeah, obviously, I think that, Moultrie and Bray, who are taking the questions, very, very well rehearsed, a lot of qualifying statements there, plausible deniability. They didn't really want to get into the past. So what happened between that time when there was Blue Book and ATIP, which I'm also really, really pleased that they actually did acknowledge. So that's great news for Lou there. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have to think about the bigger picture of what's happening. Lou himself has said this is probably going to be the first of many hearings. In my opinion, Chris Mellon has been playing 3D chess all along. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there are any other surprises that he's got up his sleeve as well. So yeah, I think they're playing the long game, and this is just a start. And surprisingly, the Wilson Davis memo was brought up as well and added to the record. So that was the big surprise for me. I think that was done on purpose. I'm very, very optimistic about the future now. Yeah.
I didn't see it as positively as you did, my friend. I mean, there were some highlights for me, but my opinion tonight, we'll get into that a little bit later. I want to get everybody in here. Cristina Gomez, your first time on Spaced Out Radio with us. I want to get your opinion. I'm sure you were up early like the majority of us watching this. Did your jaw drop? Were you excited? Were you happy? Were you scratching your head afterwards?
Well, from the very beginning, I didn't have high expectations, same as the June 25th report. So I was really looking for those breadcrumbs and kind of thinking along the lines of, I hope this is just the beginning. There were a lot of things that did. So I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I do
Yeah,
apologize.
that was Nicole. I'm going to get Nicole to turn her speakers down. But go ahead, Cristina.
So there were a few questions and a few answers that really did shock me. But what we need to keep in mind while we are giving our opinions on this is that it wasn't created for the UFO community. While a lot of us might have considered it to be a nothing burger or just old news and nothing worth considering, this was really geared towards those that don't know anything about the subject. And that even goes for the members that were a part of Congress that were even asking the questions. They weren't that familiar with the topic either. So this is just the start. At least I'm hoping that's the case. And hopefully, as a collective, we'll all be more informed on the phenomenon. And that's kind of where our podcasts and our shows fill in the gaps where the mainstream media and Congress fall short. So overall, like I said, I didn't have high expectations, but I was pretty excited waiting for the hearing, watching the hearing, and even after, I was pleased with it.
Well, the one thing that I noticed was Chris Mellon. He really didn't seem on Twitter that he was very happy with what was going on today. I mean, he seemed, glad that the conversation was happening. And yet he seemed to all of a sudden, kind of say, we really didn't get what we wanted. Dr. Bob McGwier, I'm going to bring you in here. As Chris Mellon, I want to quote his tweet that said, "That was a frustrating hearing, as well as a reminder both of how far we've come and how far we still have to go." In 2022, Bob, should we be hearing congressmen talking about swamp gas?
No, we shouldn't. And furthermore, the people behind the scenes that are doing all this data collection, they actually know that some of these sensed objects, the stuff that isn't swamp gas that they try to throw in there, they know that some of these objects cannot be manufactured on the earth by any known power. They know this, and that was the one thing I wanted. They said, we don't know this and we don't know that. And then they were asked lots of questions that were completely obvious. And it was horrifying that they did not know about any of the incursions on the nuclear weapons fields and on the northern tier. That was just awful. And it's clear that the two people that were trotted out have no access to the insider information about recovered craft, aliens, Roswell, or any of that stuff. And that's the reason they were out there, because they could truthfully say that we don't know. Furthermore, they had not been read into any compartments. And the way they answered was, we in UAPTF don't know any of these answers. Of course, that completely excludes 95% of the internal universe in the government, which they didn't even inquire about. So they didn't talk about Wright-Patterson. They didn't talk to the Air Force. They didn't talk to Space Force. They claim they represent them, but they represent them with zero information in their pocket, and they don't know what has gone on from Foo Fighters forward. And so there was a lot. There were evasive answers. They were craftily done. They sent the right people out there so they could tell the truth and it mean a lie.
All right, we got more people I want to get to, but I know, Chris, you're on a time limit here because you do have meetings all day today. Chris, when you hear the battle between those who are frustrated with this and those who are trying to find out any positive incentive in moving the ball forward, as a journalist writing for Liberation Times, how do you find the balance from your sources, and what are they talking about behind the scenes? I'll get you to unmute, Chris.
I mean, firstly, this was a major step forward. I mean, the story that Josh Boswell and I wrote to coincide with the hearing, it was the top headline in the Daily Mail. I mean, I don't remember last time when that happened. I mean, if anything, it's caught the media's attention big time. And in terms of what I'd say is that I was always expecting more questions to come out of this than answers. I think that's what we need now. I don't know if you saw, but afterwards, Representative Gallagher and Representative Krishna Morphy, two of the stars from that actual committee, they appeared afterwards on the television to be interviewed. None of them were satisfied by the answers that they got. Both actually felt that Bray and Moultrie evaded their questions. I mean, in my opinion, we're not looking at a happy committee and a happy Congress, and I expect more hearings from here. And also, Rubio and Gillibrand have been very, very quiet on this topic lately, apart from the leaks that came from Politico last week. And I'm getting a similar vibe from them than I did with Carson and the other reps who are in today's committee once I heard that the hearings were going to take place. Obviously, they didn't say anything because New York Times got the exclusive. But I'm getting a similar vibe. I'm expecting more hearings. I mean, this was to move the ball forward. And I think, come a few months down the line, we'll see it as part of a bigger kind of like picture that kind of got us to where we want to get.
I was chatting with Luis Elizondo earlier today, Chris, via text message afterwards. And I'm not going to go through the entire process because I think that's a private conversation. But I will say what he told me here. He said today was a way to tell Congress that they don't want to consider the real possibility it may be non-human. But that's okay. This is only the first hearing of more to follow. It's just like the 180-day report. People didn't realize the significance until later. Baby steps, he goes on to say. He goes, remember, this is a process, and we have to let it run its course. Wilson document now added to the record, and ATIP was acknowledged. So there was some victories in there by small wording, Chris, but there really wasn't a lot to do with the actual fact of why we were here. When we're still hearing little green men and we're still hearing swamp gas, it really goes to show how far behind maybe the elected officials and or Congress really are on this topic, which made it easy for both gentlemen from the UAPTF or AIMSOG to actually deflect this.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a reason why Lou is talking a lot about amnesty. This was the opening act. It wasn't a great opening act. I mean, we're talking about guys here who were qualifying their language all the time, basically. I mean, in regards to they were asked something along the lines of contracts relating to materials. Moultrie said, I'm not aware of any contractual programs that are focused on anything related to defense contractors in relation to covert materials and stuff like that. However, from talking to one of my sources who actually works in the defense industry, he said, actually, well, what about independent R&D work that's not contractual, that's reimbursed by the DoD? There's a lot of advanced tech that goes on there. So a lot of these statements and stuff, you have to read between the lines. And I mean, I think once you've got like a really, really good analysis there of what they're actually saying, then you can pick apart their answers today. But look, I'm expecting a lot more. I think Lou, again, I will underline that he's talking about amnesty for a very, very good reason. Chris Mellon is playing 3D chess. Expect more fireworks to come, in my opinion. I'm very, very optimistic. Although today wasn't the greatest hearing of all time. I think bigger things to come. And look, if the Senate Intelligence Committee is going to hold a similar hearing, I mean, you're going to see a very, very good show in terms of especially Gillibrand and Rubio, because they're very, very frustrated by the process.
Well, let's hope that Katie Page, you come on in here because we have you have spent pretty much the entire day doing radio interview after radio interview regarding this subject in your beautiful state of Colorado. What's your opinion on what happened today?
Well, I think the best thing that came out of it was trying to remove the stigma for pilots or military men and women to report these things. So that was a step in the right direction, right? I love that they said it's a bipartisan topic, which it is and should be, although they love to politicize everything they can get their hands on. So those were some good things. But I was just so disappointed in the disorganization of things that, the videos they chose to use as examples were horrific. And then they couldn't even pause the thing. Adam Schiff is like, well, what are you talking about? What are we trying to see here? And then they spend 2 minutes to try and find the dang little blip. I'm like, come on, couldn't we have been more organized there? And where were our witnesses? Where were the pilots? Where were our military men and women? And why just the Navy? And then, of course, it's always, well, we'll talk about that at noon behind closed doors. And I realized there's top secret radars and equipment under our oceans that they can't really discuss in public. But for me, the whole thing was a little, that nothing burger a little bit. But I agree with the panelists as well. I mean, this is a first step of many, so we'll see where this takes us. But just like before, it kind of always ends up a little disappointing.
Cristina, did you think that the video was a little bit, less apropos than what we needed? Were you expecting something a little bit more interesting, especially after they called out Jeremy Corbell's night vision video as pretty much bokeh and confirmed what all the skeptics had said about that?
Well, I feel like the choice of videos was rather intriguing in the sense of one, they didn't tell us the date, they didn't tell us the location, they barely touched on how it was recorded. And what shocked me the most, and that Katie had mentioned, is there was one video specifically addressed by Adam Schiff. And for several minutes, they're just trying to catch that clip, and there wasn't a freeze frame of the UFO that was caught on camera. So what comes to my mind, because we are dealing with congressmen, we're dealing with military officials, we're dealing with intelligent officials as well, in the sense of intel, right? So it makes me question, was it intentional to let that video run and run and run and get these kinds of confused remarks by those watching the video? In my opinion, I believe there was a purpose for it. Otherwise, it just looks horrendous. It honestly looks stupid, like they weren't prepared. They didn't know what they were doing. They don't know how to use technology. And I have to be a little bit more optimistic when it comes to something as important as this, regardless of if you're familiar with the UFO history or not, or even the present information. Putting that aside, if it's classified as a threat, which when we're dealing with Congress and the government, it is classified as such, it's going to be held in high regard and it is going to be classified as important. So the fact that in that one video in particular, at about the 37-minute mark, I have to think that there had to be a reason for it. There had to be intention. What that intention was, well, I don't know. Like Chris has mentioned, not only is Chris Mellon playing 3D chess, but it could be very well that a lot of those people in Congress are also playing 3D chess that we're just not seeing yet. So overall, in some respects, I was disappointed with the videos, but then again, it makes me question what's going on. There's one more thing I do want to mention before I pass it over.
Please.
And that is, remember on 60 Minutes, Navy pilot Ryan Graves said they're seeing UFOs in the sky on a daily basis. And they're telling us that the best they can get are cell phone images that they showed to Congress today. I mean, I have to call BS on that. And so I'm assuming that the smoking gun video evidence is just kind of being held back for analysis or all these types of different excuses. So when Bray was saying, oh yeah, this is the best cell phone footage we can have that we can share with you. But then you have Navy pilot Ryan Graves stating on 60 Minutes that they're seeing things like this every single day. I can just smell the BS. And so I was rather disappointed in that aspect.
All right, Bob, I saw you nodding your head quite a bit there in regards to it, but I want to get your opinion momentarily, Bob. But because we only have a couple minutes left with Christopher Sharpe from Liberation Times, Chris, the videos, very weak. I thought it was a joke that they lined up. They couldn't line up that one video to show us the dot in the sky, which to me looked very similar to the Batman balloon that we had seen about a year and a half ago. I mean, what's your thoughts on these videos?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, you've just got to listen to Representative Burchett after the hearings took place. You know, he said it was a lame video. And he says he's seen much better. He's asking, you know, why are we not bringing naval aviators in? Yeah, and he's also saying it's bogus to say they have whistleblower status as well. They can't have whistleblower status until it's in the law. But yeah, the videos themselves, I think, I was kind of getting a mixed picture on that because Burchett said he'd seen much better questions. But if you listen to Crawford in there, in the committee, the ranking Republican, he was kind of complaining, saying that the video that he's seen isn't so clear. So I'm not sure where that's come from. I don't know if they've all had the same briefings, they've all seen the same stuff. So I was a little bit confused by that. But yeah, I think there's a lot more, you know, obviously better footage out. So I'm just hoping that, you know, that we get to see a lot more of it. And if you noticed as well, you had Representative Schiff in the committee as well, in the subcommittee, and that's not something that he usually sits on if you look at the members of that committee. But obviously he's the chair of the actual House committee itself on intelligence. And he was calling for transparency in it. That was kind of like his main message, really. And I think when you've got someone powerful like Schiff, who sits on the Gang of Eight, asking for more transparency. And by the way, on the Gang of Eight, there is the possibility that he has seen a lot more compelling footage himself as well. But when he's calling for more transparency on this, with him being such a powerful figure, I think I'm hoping that we can actually hear a lot more on this and get better footage out there.
Jason Guillemette from that UFO podcast. We got about 2 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. You and I are coming at this from a completely different angle, which is the fact that we're Canadian and we're looking down at our brothers and sisters of the South saying, come on, we had our pom-poms ready even during hockey playoffs here. And yet, what's your thoughts? Where do you feel on this? Where do you stand?
It's almost like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing in the States, because we know for years that they've had crash retrieval experiences that, you know, even Jacques Vallée's recent book describes 1945 as, you know, having another year where the U.S. military gained some sort of out-of-worldly technology. So we know that these groups exist. Now, what I thought was funny in, I think it was Moultrie that said it, but it must be brave when he was talking about the procedures, what happens, you know, after something is cited. Well, we come in and we take the information, and I'm like, okay, but isn't there already a group of people that already do that? And, you know, go back to the Nimitz incident when that happened with the Tic Tac. Within 20 minutes, 2 men in civilian clothes showed up and grabbed the information and took off. Well, the UAP task force didn't exist back then, so who was it? So are they going to be competing against that group of people now? Like, I don't know exactly how much pull this new organization is going to have, but yeah, I just thought, you know, well laid out plans for being relatively new, but yeah, there were certain things in their what would you call it, debrief or briefings, if you will, to the Congress that were okay for me. Like, I thought it was okay. It was little nuggets of information that I like following wherever it may lead. Like, if it turns out to be extraterrestrials or something like that, that you are going to continue pursuing that you're not just going to keep it secret, right?
All right, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. I promise we will hear from Nicole Sakach in the second half hour. Thank you, Christopher Sharpe from Liberation Times, for stopping on in. We got a great panel talking about today's UFO Congress. History being made? Who knows? All right, guys, we got 5 minutes. Reminder that our YouTube audience can hear us when we're speaking. Christopher, thank you so much. I know you'd love to stay, but I know you got to run and go have tea with the Queen. So you know what? We'll leave it at that, and we'll talk soon, my friend. I appreciate you.
Actually, Prince Charles, actually.
Yeah, I know. Yes, literally, he's going to have tea with Prince Charles.
Love it.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you, Christopher.
That's no pressure at all, right?
Thank you for having me on. Lovely meeting you all as well. Hopefully we get to meet again. Take care, guys.
Thanks,
We'll do it soon, Chris. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great guy. Fantastic guy, Chris from Liberation Times. And yeah, that's a relationship that you're going to see a lot out of on Spaced Out Radio coming up in the future here as well. So, it's good. It's real good. I'm just happy you guys are all here, because if I gave my opinion, I'd be blowing up right now.
Hey, glad to be here, man. Thanks for the invite.
I had to get tuned up. I had to get tuned up by the Mystic Lion today because I was on fire afterwards. The Mystic Lion came in with his big paw and just whap right across the back of my head. It was great. You know who the Mystic Lion is, right, Cristina? That's Lou's nickname for Sean Cahill.
Ah. No, I didn't know that.
It's a pet
I didn't
name.
know either.
I will guarantee you the Mystic Lion is listening in right now while he's brushing his hair at least 48 times per side.
Count down from 100.
He has good hair. He has good
He
hair.
does have beautiful hair.
He does. He honestly does. I almost felt when we were in Las Vegas, I literally almost felt like going to find a barber and cutting mine after seeing his. I mean, that was immaculate. Absolutely immaculate. I'm still racing chat room to say hello to everyone. So give me a little bit here. I'm literally about 12 minutes behind in the chat room. Hell with it. I'll just say it. Hi, Media Fox. And who else? Terry Brown. Thank you for joining us. And who else is here?
Hey, Dave, am I still having an echo?
No, your echo is gone.
I don't have speakers, so that
Well,
was really weird.
something must have been coming out on your end, because the minute I muted you, that's when it went silent.
Yeah,
Space
it might
SOR.
have been my cell phone, so I'm sorry. I shut it down too. But I have a thunderstorm raging right now too. So
Ooh.
FYI.
Nicole, where are you again? Where do you live?
Tornado Alley, Illinois.
Oh, that's right, Illinois. How did I forget that?
All right. Space SOR, thank you for joining us in our chat room for the first time. Who else? Alien Critter, nice to see you back. Dorothy Hawkins, welcome to the S.O.R. chat. Zen1, nice to have you back. Andy Jones, thank you for joining us. And who else do we have here? If you're new here, we are a live radio show, so please understand that we do have to time everything out to our radio breaks, and that's the reason why we are on a break right now. And so we appreciate your understanding. Big J, welcome. Marvin Monroe, welcome to SOR chat. And Mennonite Abe, good to see you. And my chat room's going to jump on me again. Oh, G West, thank you so much for that great super chat, my friend. I can't believe a swamp gas was dropped today. That just pissed me off. Honestly,
I must have missed that in my 3 viewings.
The one guy I knew was going to drop that. You could tell he was so out of touch with the subject.
Was it LaHood?
I believe it was the old dude. I can't tell them apart.
Oh, geez. Or was it Crawford?
Crawford.
Yeah.
Crawford. Yeah. Hi, gorgeous
ranking member.
And hello, Jessica Rodriguez. Welcome to SOR chat. thank you for joining us. And who else do we have here? As we're running out of time, I guess I might have to fill the rest in by my fingers. Jessica, thank you so much for that super chat. We really do appreciate your support of Spaced Out Radio, along with G West, Alicia, Thomas, D. Cohen, Obi Flett, Worsley, Science Bob, and Dragon L. Thank you so much for the love, everyone. We're going to get going here in about 10 seconds. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. We are here literally 7 days a week from 9 p.m. Pacific to midnight Eastern, or midnight Eastern, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go with a great panel tonight, breaking down what happened in Washington, D.C. regarding the first UFO hearings in over half a century. Joining us tonight, podcasters Cristina Gomez, Jason Guillemette. We have from MUFON, Katie Page, Nicole Sakach, researcher and author, and of course, the man who needs no introduction, Science Bob. As we get rocking and rolling here, Nicole, we're going to start with you on this one because there was, a little bit of, I think, from the UFO community, a little ire at the way the questions were being asked towards the panel of Moultrie and Bray, who were on the hot seat for just over 90 minutes. I thought it was going to be longer. Did you think that they were throwing a lot of softball questions at the panel today, or do you think that this was a setup for further meetings?
I do think it was a setup for further meetings. I will say that I think I've seen the babiest of baby steps I've ever witnessed in my life happen today. I think it was very orchestrated. And I think what bothered me most, because I'm not as negative, I don't think it's even a veggie burger. It's not even that bad. Let's not go with a nothing burger, but I am so sick of hearing Russia and China. It's got to be Russia and China. It's got to be this, breakthrough tech from an adversary. At this point, we know it's not Russia. We know it's not China. We speak with ufologists in those countries. I wish they would throw in another country into that thought process, because I think to our community, that is becoming most absurd. But, some of my greatest parts from today were, like Katie pointed out, it was just reiterated over and over again to get rid of the stigma, with reporting. And I think that has finally sunk in, hearing the reporting guidelines that have come through and that serious level, that serious tone that they take whenever they talk about it. Yeah, you want me to keep going? 13.
Well, I mean, let's get anybody else out here to kind of look at it. Did anybody else feel that there were a lot of softball questions being asked because of either A, they wanted to make the public spectacle, or B, that many of the people on the board really didn't have that much knowledge as we expected? Katie, let's start with you.
Yeah, what bothered me was that when they were talking about with Ronald Moultrie, that undersecretary, about if he goes to like cosplay and if he likes Star Trek. And I'm like, what is this kind of? It seemed like they were belittling him a little bit or making fun of his interest in the topic. And that bothered me a little bit. Did anybody else feel that way?
Well, then you had Representative Gallagher, and he just blew it up. And he was also one of the youngest people on the panel as well. And he was just dropping name bombs. Roswell, Maelstrom, the Wilson docs. And you could just tell on his face, the way that he was speaking, his composure and his eyes, the true enthusiasm that he had, but also the slight frustration looking at his peers, stating, why aren't you asking the correct questions? But we do need to keep in mind that it's very possible that these congressmen just aren't familiar with the topic. Therefore, they don't know what questions to ask. And that's totally normal. I can understand that. But I feel like Gallagher really came to save the day. And now he has a huge fan base when it comes to the UFO community, because I think he did a really fantastic job. But also at the very beginning of this hearing, Representative Carson, he set the stage. He immediately brought up Project Blue Book. He talked about the things that need to be covered during this hearing. He even brought up the AOI MSG office, and he said it in a very weird way that I was like, is that a new office? I've never heard of that. I was very confused. Yeah, I mean, it sounds disgusting. It just sounds very gross. But, and then he even stated that UAPs are, and he made it plural. UAPs are unexplained, but they are real. So he set the stage, and I feel like he also deserves more praise when it comes to this, because I also believe that he was the one that organized it. Is that correct?
Andre Carson organized. Andre Carson is the subcommittee chairman. So I want to point out that some people have paid attention to everything all along. And you saw that in Adam Schiff asking about RF emissions from the craft. And then when they bungled the answer, he picked up the UAPTF report and says, well, wait a minute. Right here it says RF emissions. What the heck over? And so he is, you could tell this guy is a first-rate prosecutor, because he took their own words, and when they fumbled the answer, he turned them right around on them. And I guarantee you, in private session, Schmidt, he would be tearing them apart. That's number one. Number two, the angriest I got was that fool of Hood talking about prosecuting everybody who put up a UFO story. I was so mad, I was ready to tear his throat out right through the screen. I mean, I was really hot.
Ooh. I want to build on this Gallagher shift, though, and I have to point out my wonderful congressman from Illinois here too, who brought the thunder, and that's Christian. I'm gonna butcher it, Christian Morthy. Maybe I didn't butcher it, but I mean, oh my God, he brought some thunder there too with his questions. I was very proud of him. So I'm trying to flip back. He brought up the collisions, and we got the 11 near misses out of that. He asked if we had tried or received any communications from these craft or UAP. Bray answered they had not attempted communication of any form, which that floored me. That floored me. Like, even I would think in the most basic level of trying to make contact, you would like flash your lights or something, wave hello. And I've brought this up before, like, are we trying to make contact, or are they trying to contact us? So I loved that question. And then he said he assumes that we don't discharge any armaments against them, and the answer to that, no, we have not, which yay. And then how about wreckage? I think that was the first time they said wreckage in the hearings today. I think it was the first. And that was the answer that I didn't really like. They did say they have wreckage, but it's all explainable. And then that's where it gets cloaked under this, just the UAPTF
Oh yeah, that was the
Window.
deal. Was the
And
UAP
so
ETF doesn't have
so
it.
it's frustrating,
It
but
was
yeah.
frustrating.
I can't believe they said we never engaged these things. I mean, we're Battle of Los Angeles. Come on. I mean, there's so many reports of this. I mean,
Oh,
major
that's before the
cases that
cutoff.
they should be aware of. You know.
Absolutely. But you know what? To me, the fumbling and bumbling, Bob, is what really got to me. The video, okay. Professional people like this should have the video ready. That's like your CEO of a major company coming in and not having his presentation ready for the board of directors.
I mean,
I mean-
you got a deputy director of the Department of Defense, deputy director, and he has an entire staff to keep that kind of screw up from happening. It was really pathetic. I mean, just pathetic. Okay, so and you cannot go before Congress where it's being broadcast all around the world with millions of viewers and not have a video tech there all prepared. I mean, it was outrageous.
But how do you not know about, never mind the videos, how do you not know about Malmstrom? How do you not?
It was clear. It was clear, but just like Nicole said. Nicole said it perfectly. They sequestered themselves to keep from telling stuff people inside don't want told inside the UAPTF umbrella, and that's about 1% of the government or less. So 99+% of the government was not included in data for these reports because they don't have access to it. The Air Force is not sharing their data from forever until today.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of throat clearing and unspoken plausible deniability, and if in doubt, right, deny everything. And so that's kind of what I got with some of those answers that were just gobsmacking in their ignorance, just like Maelstrom. But Bray, what I noticed and something that I look for is body language. And right off the bat, as soon as the camera reached to Bray, he was like uncomfortable, like trying to reposition himself. And he's just reading his script. Okay. As soon as he put his script aside and he starts answering questions by the congressman, he said, maybe like 20 or 30 times per question. And that's something that really bothers me. These are people that need to have good public speaking skills. They need to have good presentation skills. And something that you learn in a simple class at university is not to say the word the reason to why we say this word, and we all say it and it's natural, but when you say it so often, it means one of two things. Either one, you're trying to somehow convey your thoughts with the proper words. So you're saying to fill in those gaps so that no one can interrupt you, stating that I still need to finish my sentence. So I'm going to say the word so that no one can cut me off. But how I'm looking at this is that these people have their fingers deep in the government. They know a lot of things that they simply can't say to the public. So when he kept saying and I was just like pulling out my hair, in my opinion, I believe he was trying to be very careful with the way that he answered his questions. And in some respects, he wasn't prepared, or the congressmen were asking the right questions that he was not expecting.
I believe the ums were cognitive dissonance, where he's doing exactly what Cristina said. He had a moment of cognitive dissonance where he's trying to figure out a way around what they were asking. I'm with Cristina.
And thank you. And I think that's because he didn't want to say anything without any big jaw droppers. He didn't want to shock anyone, maybe with the knowledge that he has that he simply can't share in the public hearing. Of course, we are aware at 12 noon, there was a private session behind closed doors, and it could have been very well that they showed better footage, had better information, and could have spoken more freely, or maybe Bray wasn't stuttering all the time. So it's unfortunate that we weren't able to see the better half of this hearing, but as all of you said at the very beginning, these are just the first steps, and this is probably the best thing we've got so far. I mean, look at the UAP preliminary reports or the meeting of Our Future in Space. those were just the mere stepping stones. And now here we are, really not a year later, and we're making steps. And some people are saying, just like Lou Elizondo, that there are more to come. And I don't think that we'll be waiting another 50 years for the next hearing.
Jason, I want to talk to you about one of the highlights here of this, and that was Representative Gallagher, who absolutely, came with his knowledge and his homework done. You could tell him and his assistants really did their homework when he brought up everything from Malmstrom to the Wilson documents, basically outing Eric Davis, where Eric Davis has been, trying for years to keep himself quiet on that. I think he was the star of the show today. And, I love the fact that he was pushing both Bray and Moultrie on their answers, because he knew they were hiding the answers that they were supposed to give to the congressional panel.
And he kept saying, again, I'm not the expert here. Again, I'm not the expert here, which I thought was perfect, because he's kind of just...
May I just interrupt you here for a second? Because
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up as well. I loved the fact that Representative Gallagher also brought up the fact that he was a veteran. And all veterans know that they know somebody who has seen something a little off in the field. So I like the fact that he brought that up.
Do you know what? I think even for podcasters, people like yourselves, Dave, that talk to people in the military, that's where the real disclosure is coming from, is from the people that serve in the military. And unfortunately, they were not represented today. They should have been. There should have been a lot more people there from the Navy, from the Air Force, that have experienced things. These are the people that we sent out to chase these things in the sky when they pop up on a radar, for crying out loud. So yeah, he was right to sort of not so much reprimand them, but sort of give him a slap behind the hand on the fact that they didn't ever investigate those cases, which are well known at this point. It's practically almost fact. Especially the Maelstrom nuke site. I mean, that's a biggie. That's a huge case to overlook, right? The fact that they both look like deer in the headlights when he asked them, that that was pretty priceless. Come on, we needed that little stretch of comedy. That was pretty funny.
How about anybody else? Let's talk about Gallagher here for a second. I know we mentioned him just a brief second moments before, but was this the star of the show, in your opinions, Cristina?
Yeah, I do. As I said a little bit earlier, he was just dropping name bombs, names that and words that I don't think anyone was expecting. So I think he was the star of the show. He steered it right in the correct direction. We had Carson at the beginning doing a beautiful job. Then it kind of winded down with maybe some questions that weren't well worded. And then it came back up with Gallagher. And I think that was kind of the peak, the climax. And then it came a little bit down, but it stayed somewhat steady. And, some laws to protect witnesses or whistleblowers will be coming forward. And if that happens eventually, we'll open up the hangar doors, I think, for in-your-face testimony to be covered. And so all of those people should then be in the hearings, such as what we saw today.
Nicole.
I want to start by pointing out right when Gallagher opened and he was kind of laying out he was being so precise, I think, how he went from Project Blue Book to ATIP. And then he started hammering, like, can you describe anything in between those two projects? And the language he got out of Moultrie, I think, was so interesting. And every answer that he reiterated, that they have not seen any other documented, we have not seen any other official, contractual. It's like he kept saying things without saying, we haven't seen that under UAPTF. Again, it was that umbrella. Or how did he even say it? Nobody's brought it to my attention. Like those little lines and phrases, I think, were that typical DOD, Pentagon two-step that we've seen forever and ever and ever. I mean, we are talking about the guys who want to keep this compartmentalized, who want to keep it in the military industrial complex to be able to exploit it. And yeah, Gallagher called him on that. I think he laid it out very nicely for our community, not just the public. I think that was intentional for us. So that was like aha, we got you, the first one.
Katie Page.
Gallagher, what I found him to be, like you guys said, kind of the hero. He knew the questions to ask and some of the historical things. But what I found most fascinating was that's when it kind of transitioned and you started to hear the word control, 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 control coming back at him. And that's when my head kind of exploded. Wait a minute, what is this really all about? And to me, it's kind of obvious that they're trying to control a narrative. They're controlling what they want to be, what the public, not our community, because we're pretty all versed and educated, but people that don't know a lot about the phenomenon, I think they want to control that narrative still. So for me, I think this whole congressional hearing was about control. And I think it's really interesting that that word got put out there when they were kind of pushed by Gallagher.
And you, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Katie, is you said, once again, the narrative. We're trying to control the narrative. We're trying to control the secrets. This goes right back to when, almost a year ago now, when the DIA report came out, where the Pentagon and AOI MSG was announced, where the Pentagon and Susan Goff came out and said, hey, you elected officials, you don't need to worry about this. We've got this covered. We'll take care of this. We'll do our own investigations. And you don't need to get any more videos. You don't need to investigate this anymore. We got this covered. That's our job as the military. There was that same sense, Katie.
There was. I mean, they were kind of belittling all of the rest of us. That's when I was getting kind of mad. Like, oh, these crackpots, we can't believe just your everyday witness or whatever. Like, don't worry about it. We have control of this. We'll control where this all goes. And that was like, oh, that's worrisome.
Very much so. 2 minutes ago, Science Bob, you closed this half hour out.
So I think we covered it fairly well. We covered that Gallagher was the well-prepared, knowledgeable congressman who didn't need a staffer to feed him questions in his ear. He already had them at his fingertips. He got the Wilson document and other things into the official record, and he brought up names that they should know and don't. And then we saw the what is going to clearly be the representatives of the insider cabal that doesn't want stuff covered, and that would be LaHood and some others. And so, but I do want to say that we saw bipartisan support for their efforts, even though we here wanted to hear, we know it's aliens. We saw bipartisan support for them moving forward. You heard Bray once again affirm that he had in fact classified the crap out of everything. So it's first classified, in other words, shoot everybody, and we'll sort out who was guilty later. They're going to classify everything and then see what they can release after that, because their constant mantra is protect methods and means and assets. So they don't want to reveal our capabilities to an adversary that might exploit them against them or defeat our capabilities. So Bray was explicit, at least, in saying everything that we get as a report is going to be classified until we know it isn't. The problem with that is when something gets classified in the government, it takes forever to downgrade it. That's a problem.
Nicole, final word, 35 seconds.
I'll just add on to Bob. They did promise transparency, though, and to declassify these things as quickly as possible. So we have to hold them to that.
Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to try and convince Katie Page to stick around. She said, I got to go after 1 hour. I have to. I got to wash my hair. No, we're going to try and convince her.
I'm going to see David Marler tomorrow. I'm driving down the road. I'm getting 37 boxes of good stuff. So
I'm just teasing you. But when we come back, I think for all of us, we were either shocked or we knew that the names Chris Mellon and Luis Elizondo were not mentioned during the hearings. Let's talk about these two gentlemen when we come back. Special edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Cristina Gomez, Nicole Sakach, Science Bob, Katie Page, Jason Guillemette. Spaced Out Radio continues after this.
Dave, you're a bum.
I'll take a 5-minute nap so I can stay.
I know you gotta get.
Hey, I've seen pictures and video of Katie camping in the woods in Georgia with a team hunting after Bigfoot. She ain't worried about her friggin' hair.
No, I'm not.
I wouldn't want to fall asleep on David Marler though. Like,
No.
need to get adequately rested for that.
Right. It's not too far of a drive. It's only 7 hours. That's not so bad. Then I'm going to rent a trailer.
That is a huge opportunity. I'm very happy for you and proud of you.
Yeah, you see this.
Marla is really important.
See this whole cabinet behind me? This is all donated to me by Marler. And then he texts me and he's like, I just got this great new archives and I have 37 boxes of doubles and things that I have to view on it. I'm like, I'll be there next week. So I can't miss an opportunity. He's such a great friend. And
that is a massively good connection and good on you.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm going to do 9 News from his archives. So that'll be a cool setting to do the 9 News spot from his archives. So that's going to be fun. Yeah.
With the price of gas, though, that's going to be a costly venture.
Well, yeah. Plus, the $200 to rent the 5x8 trailer and gas, and I'm staying at a hotel for one night. But hey, I get a nice dinner with Dave and his wife, and it's all worth it to me. That dad is like priceless. He knows what treasures are in there. So.
And plus, you get a really cool story out of it. Like, I went and drove 7 hours to go get this, and
yeah, exactly.
Had dinner with him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. So I'm a little worried. I hope the U-Haul guys will hook up the trailer for me and everything on my Jeep because I haven't really ever driven with anything behind it. So just take the turns really wide. I'm like, where do you park in the parking lot? I'm like worried about silly little things like that.
Find a Walmart. Yeah, that's the easiest place, right? Just
park at Walmart and walk over to the hotel.
Exactly. Yeah, and just park like a douche, just right across, 6 lanes or something, right? Until the morning when you're good to go again.
Right. So, Jason, how is Canada taking this news? Are people paying attention there or not so much?
You know what? I wish it was a lot more. Like we got this Larry McGwier that's been pushing UAP information on the government level. So I've been trying to get him on. Mm-hmm. But it's hard. Like they're not talking about. We're too worried about Justin Trudeau right now than worrying about UAPs, right? Because it's more Canada has a huge problem on their hands with the political correctness, if you will. The woke people are in our government and unfortunately making bills and passing things that are not good. Basically not good, but just for the free speech. It's against free speech. So we're more worried about that right now than we are about UAPs. And
right. As this video gets taken down immediately.
Exactly, right?
We're gone.
Move in.
Go, what happened? Where did everybody go?
The lights just
he got us in trouble. He got us in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is worrisome. I agree.
Yeah.
So.
But it's seeing the states take the helm on this is amazing. To see these hearings happen, because we know China now has a UFO program as well, sort of like the states do. I hope Canada would follow suit and have one as well, and other countries. And Australia's talking about it a lot more. England, Ireland, like all these places are booming with enthusiasts, that are really pushing this and investigating and getting off the couch. So yeah, it's cool to see on a global level. There's momentum.
Yeah, I worry about what the agenda is, though. Like, still, that's always in the back of my mind all the time, even since 2017 with ATIP and speaking of Lou Elizondo and all that. I'm like, what's really the agenda? And even MUFON, we have a history of being infiltrated. I'm not saying that we are now, but what is the purpose there? Is it disinformation, or is it leaking out what they can safely, because they have to protect our secrets, and they have classifications that they're not able to talk about these things. So I'm like, what is the ultimate game? What's the end game?
Not sure, but I think the more that we delve into this, like if we start looking at the alien abduction stuff like that, there's actual physical evidence in the sense of, people are being hurt by this phenomenon. Even like they were talking about people in the military that have close contact with crafts that end up having radiation poisoning, or there's side effects to these things, right?
Havana syndrome. Yeah, Havana syndrome and all that. And that's a whole piece of this whole puzzle, this whole congressional hearings leaving out.
Well, they're not going to approach that at first, right? They'll just ease the public into, first of all, accepting that we might be visited. Second of all, maybe that we're being plucked out every once in a while and checked over and put back, right? You can't
that's David Pilates. I mean, he doesn't come right out and say it, but I'm like, we just had him here in Colorado for our guest speaker. I just had dinner with him the other night, and we had some great conversations about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and the people that are going missing, in our national forest.
He wrote all
Canada, a lot about Canada.
He wrote all the first Bigfoot books I read.
Oh, wow.
David Pilatus wrote a whole library of Bigfoot books. And of course, we got Ron, what's his name? He wrote a fantastic book on the quantum Bigfoot. Man, that book is awesome. Ron Edwards. That book's amazing.
Ronald Moorhead.
Moorhead. Yes, Moorhead.
Yeah. We got 15 seconds here. We're going to continue with the panel here momentarily. Thank you to everybody tuning us in. Thank you to all the veterans who are in our chat room tonight. We really do appreciate your love of S.O.R. Here we go, everyone. Hour number 2 right now.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. We appreciate you tuning us on in. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears tonight. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the S.O.R. Space Travelers Club. Calciferous. Calciferous is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with an incredible panel breaking down the U.S. congressional hearings on UFOs earlier today. Joining us tonight are author and researcher Nicole Sakach, Dr. Bob McGwier, known as Science Bob around here. We have podcaster Jason Guillemette, Cristina Gomez, researcher, podcaster, and from MUFON, Katie Page. Thank you so much for continuing on with the panel tonight. Out of everything that happened today, 2 names were not brought up. Luis Elizondo and Christopher Mellon. These 2, since the inception of the To the Stars Academy back in October of 2017, have been at the forefront of the entire UFO picture. Nicole, I want to start with you on this one. Out of everything that was asked, I know Mellon likes to be in the backwards scene and doing things behind the scenes. Elizondo, I'm sure he didn't want his name brought up. He's too proud of a man to want his name brought into this, after all the work he's done in meeting with Congress people, with senators and the like. Were you surprised, Nicole, that neither Chris Mellon or Luis Elizondo's name came up today?
No, I wasn't surprised by it because the reasons you just noted, they want to stay behind the scenes. But their language was there. It was so obvious. Talking about the sensor technology that we already have in place. That was pretty much verbatim what Mr. Mellon has been saying for months and months and months and months. And I think the other thing that we need to duly note, and maybe why their names weren't dropped, is it's very clear that Mr. Moultrie and Mr. Bray were trying to guide this narrative to things they can control. The sensor data they control, their affiliates within different departments of the government. And so I think in lieu of trying to keep that kind of credibility with their data, they didn't want to bring in the big names, that are stirring the pot and creating this public outcry, I guess. It just adds drama to the situation that I think they're trying to keep as much drama out of as possible.
So Dave, let me jump in for a second. So I want to back up Nicole saying what she did. And remember, we heard today very important stuff that Christopher Mellon has been pushing in front of our noses for a long time, which is you cannot do this seriously if you're not fusing sensor data from every possible department all over government, whether it's NASA, whether it's the intelligence community, Department of Defense, FBI, it doesn't matter who it is. You've got to fuse the sensor data together so you can build a complete narrative. That's the plus on it. The negative on it is, I assure you, it doesn't matter that Jerry Reed is gone. People inside the OUSDI, they are still PO'd that Elizondo wrote documents which got things released really kind of sketchily when those videos, and that Christopher Mellon pulled an operation where now the stuff was released, he had a staffer come from inside to bring him the videos on the outside in the parking lot. That kind of stuff, it is not easily forgiven. And so I'm sure that the Congress critters and the staffers went, everybody knows that you're credited with this. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for you and the New York Times and Politico. They wouldn't, but none of it would happen. But you're still a part of the problem inside the Pentagon. So we're wanting to have you advise us, but we're not going to shove you out front because of the stuff that was done to get the videos out. Legal, but right along the edge.
All right, let's go to Cristina Gomez here. What's your thoughts?
I'm privy to how much time Mr. Elizondo spends away from his family, being in DC, and pushing so many buttons and influencing in the background for more members of the House and Senate to get their eyes on the evidence and asking those tough questions. So I think that they're doing their due diligence to move things forward, but they're doing it out of the public eye. And according to both Mr. Elizondo and Mr. Mellon, there is a lot more to come, but it's not going to come like a dam breaking, right? But rather in solid and true baby steps. And so there's a big and complex paper pushing monster in all of this, between all of the intel and alphabet agencies as well. And like I said, we are seeing major baby steps, but I am very, very hopeful for the future because of what they have been doing.
And I can understand why a lot of people are still excited about what's going on. Jason, let's bring you in here from UAP Studies podcast. I apologize, I got the wrong name on your podcast.
Oh, no worries.
I really do. You can body check me at the old Chilliwack Arena, and
that's fine. We'll do that.
It wouldn't be the first time I got hit there, but nonetheless, I mean, Elizondo and Mellon have played such an integral role. Whether you're a fan of theirs or whether you're a critic, the one thing that we do know is that they have really been sewing up a lot of holes behind the scenes within Congress and the Senate regarding this topic, talking to anybody who would give them an opportunity to do so. Does this take away, their names not being brought up today, does it take away from all the hard work that they've done?
No, if anything, I think I admire them more. The fact that they do what they do day in and day out, and that they don't expect to be, recognized or to be on TV in front of the Congress. The fact that they're doing this because it's for this subject and for this topic, and it does merit, like it is the most serious topic that we have, and that the United States is facing, and that the whole world is facing. And yet Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon are the two that have really done, I think, a lot within the last few years to put this forward to the political realm. And I know, like, Twitter is a mess. A few of us are on there, and it's just, with what's been going on, people attacking everybody. The fact is that he's not bringing any of that to the table. He's just talking to Congress. He's doing his thing. To me, Elizondo and Mellon are heroes. Like, in my book, they're heroes. Yeah.
And Jason, I want to get, because you're the fellow Canadian along with me on this panel tonight. We all know that Member of Parliament Larry McGwier recently stepped out of the old Parliament Hill there to talk UAP. We are now learning that two other Canadian politicians have stepped out, asking questions about the United States. And I want to say thank you to Daniel Otis, who helped put this article together for CTV News here in Canada. And Daniel also took the time to tweet out myself and Spaced Out Radio for the fact that we were the ones who brought Luis Elizondo to the government tables in a conversation that we had with sources in Ottawa. And the point that they are now paying attention in Canada regarding what Elizondo and Mellon and other people have said regarding this topic, does this open the door up north here for the Canadian government to now potentially start their own hearings regarding UAP?
I sure hope so. I think Katie Page and us and Bob and I were talking about that not too long ago. I think during the break, just about Canada and what we're up to. I would love Canada to step up and have a UAP task force, the same as the states do. Unfortunately, our budget, militarily wise, is very low. Like, you've been at the Abbotsford Air Show, right, Dave? You've seen the Canadian military whenever they're there, and every single time they have their little World War II relics that they still use, and I'm just like, oh my God, we are so screwed. Like, if war breaks out, Canada is so screwed, and we just don't have the budget. I just don't see how they're going to fit that in, especially with under Trudeau's government. Not to get too political, I just don't see that being
No, that's allowed
forward.
here. That's
What?
allowed here.
That's allowed
And
here. We're allowed to talk against Trudeau. Okay, good.
the only thing I ask is don't insult his socks, because he does have a nice sock collection. That's
Okay.
it. The rest is game on.
Fair game. Well, fair enough. But just under our current regime, we just don't have the, I think, means to be able to investigate this seriously without having it politically mixed in with what he's up to. But
No,
yes, to answer your question, I would love to have a Canadian
Well,
UAP task force.
I think I know two Canadians on this panel tonight who would literally leave the UFO field to jump onto some Canadian UAP task force. That is for sure. That is for sure. We'd bring some serious facial hair game to that that office, nonetheless. But let's get back to Elizondo and Mellon for a second, because leading up to this, Katie, there was a lot of pressure within the UFO world, on UFO Twitter, podcasts, UFO channels, just absolutely, going over step by step everything and critiquing every little bit down to what underwear they were wearing that day regarding their role in this, whether they have been good for the community, whether they have been disastrous for the community. I think we're all in affirmation here that both Elizondo and Mellon, this hearing doesn't happen without them. What's your thinking on on this entire aspect of the way the UFO community has treated Chris Mellon and Luis Elizondo over the last number of months?
Well, first of all, I think they weren't mentioned. The fact that they weren't mentioned in the congressional hearings today had to have been intentional and orchestrated. Like, I believe, they've done so much work in the community and have had so much presence in pushing this narrative, this work forward since 2017, that it just would blow my mind that that wasn't intentional. Like, they probably asked not to be mentioned in the hearings today. I'm not sure, but I obviously we wouldn't be here without them. So we owe them a lot. This whole community does. And I know there's controversy and whatnot. I try and stay out of all that drama.
Science bomb.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt how much we owe them. I mean, there would be no subject. They were the people that fed Helene Cooper, Ralph Blumenthal, Brian Bender, and Leslie Kean, the data in a room in Crystal City, right near the Pentagon. In Alexandria and etc. in Virginia, and they met there. They showed them stuff. Lou showed them all of his military documentation, and Christopher Mellon's membership in the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence as a staffer, and then later as a OUSDI defense secretary under Republican presidents. Their history was known, and Lou proved his history. And all of the reporters have said Lou providing the military document history was what convinced their editors that the story was real. And then when they had the videos, it was a big deal. So look, it was above the fold in the New York Times. Come on. That is a huge deal. We owe all of them that. We owe them the respect that got.
Nicole.
I just want to add on maybe a little nod to history here in the same vein. If we didn't have Lou and Mr. Mellon working on this, we very easily, with the shenanigans that the DOD is pulling, with dragging their feet, being understaffed, we know all their shortcomings. But without Mellon and Elizondo, we definitely would have had another Condon situation here. I mean, at the very opening of the hearings, I think, what was it, the word? We heard it 3 or 4 times, and maybe I think 6 throughout the whole hearing. Rigorous scientific testing, rigorous testing. Rigorous was something that Condon kept saying. It was in the Condon report. Oh, we got to rigorously test this. And honestly, I think Mellon accomplished what Hynek couldn't. Hynek was so embedded with Blue Book and being in that situation and trying to defend it that they ran all over him, and I think the behind the scenes work that has been done has prevented, that same situation from repeating itself. So thank you.
Lou had stated that we were going to start seeing more names kind of pop out of this. We didn't hear any new names really come out of these hearings, Cristina. Outside of them, how do we move forward here, moving from these stories that we got from Mellon, these stories that we got from Elizondo, the fact that there are more people allegedly going to be coming out publicly on this in the near future? I mean, are we playing a long-term game here where we're just in the first quarter in a couple minutes in?
Well, as Lou Elizondo always states, this is a marathon and not a sprint. But to answer your previous question, the one that you directed towards Katie and Nicole, is I wrote a very long opinion piece on my website about how I feel how Mr. Elizondo has been treated. And, for the longest time, the community at large was begging for someone to come out of government or military service and open that Pandora's box. And we finally get someone who goes all out at great risk when he didn't need to. He could have just enjoyed retirement with his family, maybe. But instead, he went all out to get the ball rolling and pushed as hard as he could in DC. So, Mr. Mellon and Lou Elizondo, they owe us nothing, really. When it comes down to it, there's been a lot of trolls and entitlement yelling at both these men. And while you're always going to get a certain element of who will try to accuse them of being disinformation agents or for the big cash, which is in a sense a joke. I mean, we've been in this field for a while. Who gets rich off of stuff like this? So I personally feel that I owe them a big debt of gratitude more than anything else.
Yeah, and I can understand that, and I can empathize with your feelings on writing the blog and feeling that somebody needed from the community to step up and defend him, even though he has never really asked for defense from anybody within the UFO community. When we look at the UFO community at large, and anybody can jump in on this one, we have heard all sorts of stories about where our place is, that government doesn't care about us, our researchers. We knew the TTSA didn't care about anything to do with ufology, which Elizondo eventually told me was one of their biggest mistakes that they made in their, eventual failure as a UFO company. Now, when we look moving forward here, where does this place ufology moving forward? Because I think with 3 minutes to go here, so we get one comment in, and we'll carry this conversation after the break. Where do we go from here as ufology and people such as yourselves and others listening to this who are trying to put the pieces together? Jason, let's start with you.
It's confusing. I think I always speak highly of MUFON, and I think MUFON is definitely a place to start in ufology. I think that also Congress should have, they mentioned MUFON really briefly, saying that they get some of their data from that. So that was like, yay. But as ufology, I think we're still going to be podcasting and doing this sort of stuff for quite some time to come, because I don't think the truth will out is coming anytime soon.
Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I think with our shows and our podcasts and the articles we write and people that are making documentaries on the subject, we are filling in those gaps where the mainstream media falls short. And I think that ufology has to evolve a bit away from the group and think and the cancel culture that really dominates the social media scene. When someone is just brand new to the topic and they enter Twitter, for instance, UFO Twitter, it's just hate and disinformation and more hate and anger. And it can be very discouraging for those such as myself when I first entered, and someone that represents college age and the Gen Z community. It's very alarming. It's very appalling at the same time. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be a part of a very toxic community. Why would I? So I feel that ufology, it just needs to evolve a bit, and we need to remember that a lot of these, for instance, documentaries or these hearings, they are not geared towards us, but we have this entitlement mentality that obviously everything is about us and what we think and what we do and how we research, and that's horrible and that's toxic. So I think that we need to have very open arms for those that want to enter the community and to give them a good foundation. And again, that's where our shows come in, to fill in those gaps and to go into detail where the mainstream media doesn't.
Nicole, I know you wanted to jump in. Oh, hold on. There we go.
I was going to say, it's now our job. They've laid out their kind of move forward. They're going to build on this and form relationships with groups or, at least have outsiders come in where they're lacking expertise. But it's up to us. We have to hold them accountable to building these relationships with NASA and NOAA and the FFA and these private civilian groups, that they've sort of eluded is in their next phase of, what they got to take care of. Once they get staffed up, I'm expecting them to start reaching out.
Well, we're going to see where it goes. We're going to continue that part of the conversation as we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We are joined by Nicole Sakach, Katie Page, Cristina Gomez, Jason Guillemette, and Dr. Bob McGwier, known as Science Bob around these parts. The UFO Talks. How you feeling about it? Let us know on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. We're going to read some reaction from all of you that we got on Twitter earlier today. A huge night in Spaced Out Radio land and for ufology in general. Did we win? Did we lose? Did I run out of time? Yes. Yes, I did. By about 3 seconds.
You left it on a cliffhanger. I loved it.
It was awesome. So yeah. So I want to support everything that people talk. I'm now appearing as a science person, subject matter expert, whatever, in multiple documentaries. I'm going to be proposing a specific project to SCU in June, and I'm going to get on Avi Loeb's advisory committee. I mean, each of us in our own way has got to make a positive contribution. I can't sit back here and throw spitballs. I've got to get out there and do something, and that's on all of us. We all have to.
Yep. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, they want to be in control in the driver's seat, but we got to stay right there in the passenger seat right next to them, continuing to do everything we all do and sit right next to them, not let them kick us out of the car. That's all what I wanted to say. But I wanted to thank you, Dave and Nicole, for having me on. I'm actually going to go at the bottom of this half hour.
We love you.
I need to go pack and go to bed. So thank you guys.
All right. Drive
Hey, Mark D'Antonio called us out in his broadcast after you sent him the picture. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome. Right. Good night, guys.
Take care.
Good night. We're waiting for Melinda Leslie to hook on up with us and get in here. So hopefully she'll do that if she can figure out how to turn her phone on. God, I love her. I do. Shout fears for, hey, that's Al Menial. How you doing, man? How you doing? And man, we got a busy night here. Busy night. Right there. It's great. Been a great night of radio so far.
Woohoo.
Great night of radio. Yoo-hoo.
Great night of radio.
That's how we do it. That is how we do it. And we are only 15 days away from interviewing Member of Parliament Larry McGwier.
Oh, you got him?
I got him.
Dude.
They owed me. They owed me one. And that's all.
Congratulations.
That's all I'm going to say. We're going to give him his first radio interview. I got him for an hour.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Especially for a politician, that is some good time. Yeah.
There's Melinda Leslie. Seatbelt is on.
And I'm driving a friend to her hotel. My tour ran late because we were having so many sightings tonight. Oh my goodness.
Nice.
Here, my client's gonna hold my phone for me a little bit. No, I'm not gonna be on camera just for a little bit, but that's okay. Or she'll get me from the side head. But I gotta take my client to her hotel. Oh my God, we had so many sightings tonight.
How many sightings did you have?
I don't know. We didn't count. probably 50 or more.
50.
Wow. Go
And
for
my
it, Melinda.
right here with me. Tell them just your first name, dear. You tell them your first name.
Oh, sorry, Anne.
And my client Anne is in my car. I had a group of like 5 people tonight, but one of them I'm taking to her hotel, and that's Anne. And but she just was telling you, we had so many. We had like 50 sightings, but we had a bunch of really big amber lights tonight. I mean, big amber lights, like, really close sightings, and a bunch of things that went super fast. So
Very cool.
Super duper fast. I was telling Anne a little while ago, I almost wondered if, because of what happened today and it being all over the news now, and it's a big worldwide story, that I'm wondering if that consciousness increase, because we had so many sightings tonight, I can't help but wonder, it was more than usual. So I'm thinking, was it because of the awareness and the consciousness of people? Certainly people in Sedona and in Arizona, but it was just
Melinda,
yes.
Melinda, I gotta put you on hold here for 2 seconds because I gotta bring the show back in 20 seconds. I want to say a big thank you to Dragon Al, Bob Worsley, Obi Flett, D. Cohen, Thomas, Alicia, G. West, Jessica, Jason, Ed, Jessica again, Terry, Patrick, New England, Grant, Rob, and Willie for the super chats. We appreciate the love, and we are going to restart Spaced Out Radio, the second half of the show, coming up right now. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We want to say hello and remind everyone that you can find our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do us the favor, hit that subscribe button on Spreaker as well. And you can also check out our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with a great panel discussion going on tonight, and we are going to do it for the full 3 hours here. But we got some faces leaving, some new faces coming in, and we have Cristina Gomez right till the top of the hour on Strange Paradigms, also joined from UAP Studies Podcast. Good old Canadian kid, Jason Guillemette, even though it's supposed to be Guillemette, but, we got to make sure it's close enough. Dr. Bob McGwier, Science Bob around here. Nicole Sakach, author, researcher, and experiencer. Melinda Leslie is with us as well as we continue on with the discussion. No names moving forward. No names hanging out. Melinda Leslie, let's start with you on this one since you're new to the panel here. What was your thoughts on what happened at the U.S. Congress today? You're looking at it as a very positive step forward.
Yes, for the most part. I mean, granted, it was frustrating, like Chris Mellon said in his tweet he put out immediately afterwards of saying, oh, well, that was frustrating. But it tells you both how far we've come and how much further we have to go, or something like that. And I agree with him completely on that. I think all in all, it was a huge step forward. I mean, it was the first time in, over half a century and over 50 years that we had, sorry, I have to turn around the tight parking lot here at this hotel. And I'm going to try to pull into a parking space so I can do this without interruptions. But I'll just say this as I'm driving here. It was the first time in over 50 years. So that was hugely encouraging to say, hey, we're having, here, I'm going to pull up over here. Okay.
Don't forget to signal.
I'm in a bad place, but this will be fine for a little while. There would have been a better place behind me, but not the direction I'm facing on this kind of one-way street right here. But and I can turn on my light just briefly, and I can move again when we go on to somebody else.
Melinda,
There we go. I'm good. So there we go.
Okay.
So it's just yeah, I thought, again, first time in 50 years, so that itself is a big deal. And then I thought there were some really, positive takeaways from that. I agree with something that Steve Bassett put out today about Congressman Schiff being there. I think was significant. He didn't need to be there. I don't think he's normally on that committee, and yet his participation in that, I think, does lay the groundwork for further hearings. Otherwise, why would he have been there? So I think that's significant. Yeah, I just felt overall there were some good takeaways and some information we found out. And then I think it was also really good for a unique reason. I think it was blinders off for the UFO research community to realize that that yes, there were some times we were being lied to. There were a couple of things that were said by the two guys, being interviewed, that really suggested some areas where they were not being truthful. I think there were some areas where they were being truthful, but the times when they were not being truthful, I think, again, was like blinders off for the UFO community to go, hey, we are still being lied to. I think to realize that it appeared to me that Congress, or the congressmen that were there, really wanted to know the answers to some things. They seemed very involved, very much wanting to know the truth. I felt like where the problem was with the two Pentagon officials, who were obviously being very cautious about what they said, and kind of toting the old line, and I think that was a very good educational thing for the UFO community to realize what we're up against, and that it's kind of like hiring the foxes to guard the hen house is what I'm trying to say. When those two guys are the ones running the program, yet they come out of the intelligence community. So I think what we have here is yes, they've been assigned something to do. Obviously, those congressmen need to be harder hitting in their questions to say, look, we are needing answers. You don't have a choice. You have to give us the answers we're looking for, or we won't fund you, and fund these projects, or, so they need to be more hard hitting. But I think that it was very educational to have a clear idea on just what we're up against, and to the couple areas like not knowing anything about Malmstrom. Come on, that's just got to be a lie, flat out. That I wouldn't believe that in a million years. And yet now also I think to have some of those things go on the record, because now they'll have to know for the next hearing, they'll have to be able to answer that. And I think we're all tipping our hat to that particular congressman that asked about that, and getting that on the record. So anyways, I'm kind of a little distracted from the driving and stuff, but I think it was very educational for the community, and yet hopeful and promising, because it showed that these congressmen do, give a what.
All right. Before we go any further, I want to just go to our Twitter account at Spaced Out Radio, where I asked a question: what's your thoughts on today's hashtag UFO hearing in Washington? Happy, disappointed, and I'm going to read some results of the Cristina. I want to get to you because I know we only have you till the top of the hour. Graham said, we'll watch it, but I expect a nothing burger disclosure once again. Pixley said, the fact that the Wilson docs were referenced and placed in the formal congressional record was the highlight, in my opinion. There was some serious disassembling going on. UFO Jane, who we all know and love, said, well, they couldn't work the laptop, of course. Linda Thompson, blah, 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 blah. That's what she heard. David Smithhurst, I thought basic questions about things observed or AOI MSG, progress in staffing were not asked. The Air Force was not mentioned. The pictures were laughable, and the answers were, I haven't been briefed. I mean, this is going on, that this was a day of a lot of frustration, Cristina, for a lot of UFO fans out there. What do you say to the fans or the researchers or the experiencers not even mentioned regarding today's hearings?
Like I said, I wasn't expecting huge disclosure of any level. And honestly, I was pleased on the whole. And this pushes the discussion forward, baby steps. And yes, of course, some frustrations, but we need more public getting involved. And I feel, and I'm not sure on the stats on this, but I can possibly assume that this congressional hearing had more eyes than any other, let's say in the last year or 2 years on any other subject. So this really brought the seriousness home to the public at large.
Nicole? Let me read a couple more reactions here because I know people would love to hear it. Lucy Bell, I also think that the talk about legal consequences for hoaxers was absolutely disgusting. While I abhor hoaxers, the need to destigmatize this issue and encourage reporting is not served by discussions of legal consequences. This one brought up something, I know we brought it up minusculely earlier in hour one. I think Science Bob, you brought it up to the point. But literally, we are talking here, Nicole, about potentially going after people legally who are reporting on UAP that may have insider sources or other information.
Did you take it that way? Because I didn't. I took it more of the extreme UFOtainment side, maybe, that now is the time to stop profiting from this mystery, like in that sense, where, yeah, just completely unverifiable stories in our community. I mean, I looked at it as that, not necessarily that there should be consequences, but I don't know, I think this makes me hearken back to like the day of the doodlebug salesman, like they were going around pilfering communities with their bogus little trinkets. And that's the vein I kind of look at this in, which is kind of what it's an Easter egg, or at least some wording that Mr. Elizondo has used before. Like, that's the viper pit of our community. It's not really all the infighting, because that creates good conversation and debate, but it's the ridiculous factor and the fleecing of good people in our community. So,
Science Bob, I want to get your opinion on that. What does that mean?
Well, look, I mean, we see a lot of positives. We see a lot of negatives. We see a lot of people trying to be nuanced. We see a lot of people going through prepared machinations in order to control the narrative. They're still applying a control surface, trying to control the narrative. And just my kind of control theory analysis of this is we are being played, but we knew that going in. We knew it going in, but but it's transparent to people like us, the people that we want to help. The people we want to help are those people that are not like us, that aren't completely aware of the controls that are being applied. And we got to do it in a way that is consumable by others if we want to expand the group of listeners and the group of followers and get them to call their Congress critters, et cetera, or Canadian Parliament members or whatever, and get them going. So I see steps forward, and we just need to keep help pushing.
Well, one of my concerns on this, when I kind of looked into this earlier, was let's say Jason here all of a sudden gets an insider who wants to talk about UFOs, wants his name blacked out, change his voice, okay, and he's a true insider who is whistleblowing on some UAP topic. Does that now put Jason, even though he's in Canada, but let's say he was in the US, on the hot seat for some sort of trouble about this topic?
Okay, so it depends on the context. So in the United States, under the First Amendment, if you are, in a very liberal terms, a member of the press, it is already a completely established precedent, principally due to Danny Sheehan from the Pentagon Papers days, that if you receive stuff that was illegal to transport out and you put it out in the public, in the papers, you are not in trouble. So Jason will never be in trouble if he is in the United States and he is acting as a reporter under the First Amendment. He is completely protected under Supreme Court precedent that Danny Sheehan established.
Yeah, I was also wondering about that as well. When they announced that, I was like, well, what does that mean? Does it mean that if somebody reports something, and let's say, the UAP task force is already investigating it, they could sweep it under the rug and say it falls under this act, whatever it is that they would create to keep people quiet? It's not an encouragement to come out and tell them that you've seen something, or to, even mention it to MUFON if there's legal repercussions that you could be, persecuted for coming out and saying that you've seen something. So, yeah, I thought that was quite weird that the congressman would say that.
Melinda.
You guys, did you hear this differently than me? Because I thought what I heard them talking about was just going after people hoaxing, and that there was going to be now I still have a problem with that, but whatever you guys are saying about whistleblowers and stuff, I didn't hear. Okay, what I heard and what that congressman brought up was that they wanted to go after people were hoaxing fake UFO stuff, and whether something was hoaxed or caused by people setting up balloons deliberately or something like that. And anyways, just a reference to hoaxing. Now, I also have a problem with that, because I don't want the DOD deciding what's a hoax and what isn't, because that would be a very unfortunately convenient way for them to exclude a bunch of stuff. And by the way, can you guys hear me okay with me doing this on the phone?
Yeah,
okay.
You're fine.
Okay,
you're fine.
Okay. And my studio lighting is
I was going to jump in real quick and just say, like, my other thought with this, it's kind of like the laws against, you can't pull the fire alarms, unless there's an actual fire. That's sort of the other feeling I had from it.
Yeah.
Well, for that reason, Nicole, I would agree with you, and I was okay with it, except when I thought about it later, I really went, I don't want the DOD deciding what's a hoax and what isn't, or the DIA or the Pentagon or the military. I don't want any, or even Congress, deciding what is and what isn't a hoax, because a lot of really good stuff could be thrown out based upon them saying, oh yeah, that's a hoax, when actually it was a legitimate sighting. And so I think I think that's a really troublesome area that I had a problem with.
Representative Burchett went on camera after the meeting, and he pressed the exact point that there should be some kind of laws passed soon to protect witnesses, and those with evidence, or to tell stories from those who have served or are serving. If that would happen, it changes the whole ball game.
Well, no, that I support. I support, that there would be, me personally anyways, I think laws to protect the witnesses is absolutely necessary. That they have protection. So that's the opposite of going after people for hoaxing. That's encouraging people to come forward with their experiences. And certainly, though, I think, Cristina, you were probably referencing people in the military and intelligence community having experiences. And yeah, I think there should be laws and protections to support them to come forward. I agree with you 100% on that.
Well, let's get into Congressman Tim Burchett, and thank you for bringing that up, Cristina. And I'm going to focus on you here because we only have you till the top of the hour. Cristina, I mean, how awesome was it to see how fired up that Congressman Tim Burchett was after watching the hearings from the outside? He's been a very vocal voice in support of full disclosure, Roswell on up. And he was pissed off about what he heard today. I'm sure if he could have, punched his way through the walls into the Congress for that meeting, he would have done it.
Absolutely. He has been very vocal for a good length of time now on News Nation's about a week ago, and he practically said to the host that we need transparency. And in that interview that he did just recently, that most of us have seen, his body language said it all. He was disappointed. He was frustrated. He's like, I learned nothing. He stated, I learned absolutely nothing from this hearing. So I wish I could share with you what I know from closed door meetings, as he mentioned in News Nation about a week ago. And so that's rather unfortunate that he can't share the information that he knows with the public. But maybe given time, we will know maybe as much or almost as much as what congressmen know. So from the beginning, as I said, we are taking baby steps, but these are the biggest baby steps we've taken in about 50 years. So these are pretty exciting times. We're literally watching history. This is going to be in textbooks at some point in time, and we can tell our grandkids or our kids stating, I remember back in my day when I was a part of this. And so while we might not realize that extent at the moment, in 10, 20 years' time, we're going to say we were a part of this movement, and that because of us talking about this, having podcasts, and filling in the gaps where the mainstream media falls short, if we weren't here, I don't think that this conversation would be as strong as it is right now today.
All right, 2.5 minutes before we got to go. Who wants to jump in on that? Nicole, I see you nodding.
Oh, I was just nodding in agreement to everything Cristina just said. She's spot on. And I'm clapping for her now too.
Thank you.
No, I think it's the right comment. I mean, the fact that Tim Burchett, we'll continue with the Tim Burchett talks when we come back from the break, but the fact that Tim Burchett took this so personally, I thought it was a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
In today's politics, it doesn't matter if you're up here in Canada or if you're in the United States, everything is so damn cookie cutter. Every politician fits into the same cookie cutter with the same cliches. And look, as a former sports reporter, I know what it's like to be surrounded by, we just got to take it one day at a time. And sorry about that. Melinda seems to have had a phone issue, but being a sports reporter, I was so used to, we got to take it one day at a time. We got to press further into the offensive zone, and hopefully we'll get that 2 points the next time the sun shines on top of us. I was so used to that, and seeing Burchett go absolutely haywire and losing his mind in a good way. I'm not trying to make it look like he went nuts or anything, but absolutely showing emotion for the subject, for the public, and even for the experiencers who have had things happen to them. I think that it is absolutely refreshing. I'm hoping he comes on this show. I hope he goes on the podcast tour and the YouTube tour in order to get that message out that shows that there are politicians who really do care about this subject. And we got 35 seconds. Jason, fill me in here on what you think.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Politicians are just like us. They have family members, even if they themselves have not had experiences with UAPs or sightings. Some of their family members or friends or people they went to school with has had these sightings, has had these experiences. Let's face it, most of us, 6 degrees of separation. Usually we're way less than that for UAPs. You could probably find that from the second person that you ask will tell you that they've had something like that happen. And hearing politicians, full-heartedly believe in this and want to push this out to the public and saying the public is ready to handle this, that is a fresh, breath. That's a fresh breath. That is what you said earlier, breath of fresh air. There you go.
We'll get it. It's one of those Canadian tongue twisters right there. We're going to say goodnight to Cristina Gomez from StrangeParadigms.com, Science Bob, Melinda Leslie, Jason Guillemette, and Nicole Sakach. Will return for hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio next.
Thank you all so much for having me on. I think this was fantastic.
Awesome.
It was great. It was great, Cristina. And I have to go to Ohio tomorrow, and I am having trouble staying awake after last night. So I'm going to depart and go get into bed so I can drive my truck and camper without crashing.
All right,
Cristina. We'll have safe travels.
Thank you, Cristina. Thank you for being here. It was great.
Thank you.
Glad we finally got to be on together.
It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Cristina, we're going to get the booking crew. I'm going to get the booking team to rebook you because I do want to get you on a show where it's just you and me. So I am going to get the booking team to get in touch with you, or myself will get in touch with you and get you some more dates for in June so we can come together and do this. Okay.
I'll make sure to make extra coffee that day, like extra coffee.
Well, it'll only be 2 hours, but that's okay. Thank you, Science Bob, Cristina Gomez. You guys were wonderful. We'll say goodnight to you guys and appreciate your love and support of S.O.R, guys. Thank you so much. All right, let's say goodnight to them. And it's just us three kids. I'll be right back. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break here. And yeah.
How long we got?
We've got about 4 minutes.
Okay.
Where's Nicole?
I'm here.
Oh, you're still here. I saw your image go away. Sorry, everybody, about my my in-car studio.
Hey, that's what we call multitasking, Melinda.
That's right. Actually, I'm going to see if I can drive somewhere a little bit better, actually, since we're on a break. All right.
4 minutes.
Okay. Well, no, I'm talking. I'm just going to set the phone down. Anyways, just setting it down while I'm driving. I should probably mute it.
I gotcha. And now it's just my voice for lucky YouTubers. I miss all you guys in the chat tonight. I'm too focused. I can't drop in there and cause a ruckus. Filthy, Julie, you guys better be misbehaving. Hi, Kiera. I see most of the Soul family. Ah, it's my favorite Davy Altman. You're the only one that I'll let misspell Nikki, just so you know. Giggles. So let's hear it. Team Rock or Team Stump? Who's in the house tonight? I'm Team Stump all the way. Hi, John. Oh, the Stumps are taking the lead right out of the gate. Stump, stump, stump. Team Edward. Okay, well, I guess you can go for the Vamps instead of the Wolves. I'm okay with that. Ooh, Team Lou. All right. You guys have to tell me, was the Twitterverse on fire today? I didn't dip in. I couldn't. I couldn't. I couldn't. Was everybody excited? And it is Taco Tuesday, so things couldn't get better.
Yeah, Nicole and Mike, it was real interesting in Twitter today. All sorts of interesting comments, some of which I agreed with, some of I didn't, of course. But
I couldn't get there. I just couldn't open up Twitter today.
Well,
I was afraid.
I was really curious to see how people were reacting and what they were saying, and it was really interesting. Very interesting. But
all right, I am back.
Guess who's back? Dave is back.
I want to say a big thank you to Kira, John, Steve, John, Big Willie, Rob, Grant, New England, Patrick, Terry, Jessica ×2, Ed, Jason, G. West, Alicia, Thomas, D. Cohen, Obi Flat, Worsley, Bob, and Dragon L for the amazing super chats tonight. It's a great way to support this show on a nightly basis. Thank you so much for your love of this show and what we do on a nightly basis. Thank you to little Davey Altman who's listening in. Little Davey Altman, everybody. We love him around here. And, of course, thank you to all the veterans who are tuning on in. You always have a safe home here in our Spaced Out Radio chat room. And to all our regulars, great to have you all here. Thank you so much. Here we go with the final hour.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and S.O.R.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Nice to have you all with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears on this all-special night here on the mighty S.O.R. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the S.O.R. Space Travelers Club. Calciferous. Calciferous is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We had to say goodnight to Science Bob and to Cristina Gomez, but we continue on with our panel tonight looking into the U.S. Congressional hearings on UFOs. Joining us tonight, Melinda Leslie, researcher and experiencer from the UAP Studies podcast, Jason Guillemette, and Nicole Sakach, researcher, author, and team member of S.O.R. We continue on tonight, and one of the things that was left out, we all knew it was going to be left out, Melinda, was about the experiencers. You know, you're an experiencer. I'm an experiencer. Nicole's an experiencer. Jason just has a good beard and mustache combination. Okay. Was this for experiencers a step in the right direction?
Well, I think it was a step in the right direction for the whole subject, but for experiencers specifically, it was a non-issue. I mean, it wasn't about that. I didn't expect it to be about that. I certainly would never have thought of anything like that ever coming up. It's too early in the game, you know. I'm actually grateful it didn't come up. If it came up in any way, I'm sure it'd be mishandled, you know. So I think it's better that nothing. What's wrong?
But Melinda, it also did not come up with the experiencers of the fighter pilots who were intercepting these, the crews of the naval ships who were intercepting on the radar, like the USS Princeton during the Nimitz incident of 2004. There was nothing to do with any type of experiencer.
Well, if you're talking about, you know, the people having sightings, you're right. But they weren't getting into the individual sightings. Let's just say I think more happened today than I originally expected would happen. I thought it would be a bigger nothing burger. I jokingly told someone today I thought it was a keto burger. Not a nothing burger, just missing all the fat in the bun and the
Oh, they wrapped
all those good delicious carbs, you know. So but no, I'm just saying, I think I got more out of it than I thought I was going to. They weren't getting into individual accounts. And like you said, the fighter pilots and their experiences, you know, I had the great pleasure of going out to dinner one night here with Alex Dietrich, who was, you know, Fravor's wingman. And she came to town here in Sedona with a friend, and we went out to dinner. That was lovely. And so you know, I got to hear her account firsthand. I think that will come up when people can testify. I wouldn't want Congress and the DOD speaking on behalf of these people. I'd want these people to speak for themselves. Certainly Alex and Captain Fravor and all the others, Kevin and everybody, are certainly more than capable of speaking for themselves, you know. And so I'm actually relieved, I think, that part didn't come up. I mean, yes, individual accounts, you know. One thing I wasn't sure, not to change this subject really here on you, Dave, but this makes me think of one thing that did happen today that was a major takeaway is, you know, last June when we got the 9-page report, it talked about what was it, 143, is it, accounts?
144.
144, but one was found out to be something else, so 143 remained to be unidentified, if I have that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, one thing that was said today, and I think it was Bray that said this, that they now have another 400 of these accounts from last June till now. Right?
Yes. And he gave the reason for that being the stigma is being relieved from reporting this, and because the reporting structure has been enacted. So
exactly, that was my point to bring it up. You just said it right there, Nicole, that with the stigma, you know, that they now have all these people coming forward. I don't think it was Bray. I think it was the other gentleman who said someone even called him directly, you know, to report to him. But regardless, it was like, okay, 400 more reports is a significant number more, and those are just the ones they're getting. I thought that was a huge takeaway to say, hey, and so this is in kind of answer to your question there, Dave. It's like those experiences, those accounts, you know, are being heard, and more people are coming forward. I think that's one thing that we're going to see and expect more of now, because the stigma to sharing experiences has changed. So I think we're going to get more of that, more certainly more of the military witnesses coming forward, and that is a really nice big takeaway from this whole process and from what happened today.
Jason, let's get your thoughts.
Having spoken to some of the same people that Dave, like that served on the Nimitz, and I've seen these things such as Kevin Day and Sean Cahill. There's an emotional reaction as well to their sighting. It's not just the sighting itself, but it's what it did to their career. Like Kevin Day's career was pretty much shot after that. People kept calling him a UFO boy because for 2 weeks he kept seeing this on his radar. So there's a physical or mental effect to these incidences. Even you were mentioning about the experiencers. Yes, get the military experiencers on and to talk to Congress, openly about what it is that they've seen. Imagine if you had I'm so bad with names here. You guys will know who I'm talking about, but the guy from Maelstrom,
Salas.
Robert Salas.
Robert Salas, thank you. To have him and talk about his testimony in front of the, and tell them, look, this is what we're facing back in the 60s. We're still experiencing this in 2022. It's crazy. So yeah, I think they should bring the experiencers up. I think that's an important thing. And again, we were talking earlier about the abductees. I'm huge into that portion of the phenomenon, but I think it's too early to bring that into play, especially when you're trying to introduce a subject to maybe a population that's not as used to this as being real as it is. You got to sort of ease your way into, their trust, and then start revealing that, maybe there's more to this phenomenon than just seeing something pass by a jet, that these things occasionally do stop and they pick somebody up,
Nicole?
Were we on a specific topic, or are we just kind of spitballing here about not bringing up experiencers? Because I think the only thing I have left to add is just that it really was brought up by every person that spoke about how important it was to remove the stigma when reporting. Every single person said that in some way, shape, or form. So, and honestly, I think throughout the entire discussion tonight, I don't think we really gave Mr. Carson enough credit for being so unwavering and demanding in what he laid out. He wanted to know very specific things on how this was going to move forward. And a round of applause for him with that too, which this goes back months and months ago. The first time he was showing his face publicly and talking about this, he said he was coming in to mean business. And I think we saw that out of the questions today. I do think there was some serious intent to this. And yeah, I think in a roundabout way, when they brought up the blue on blue to make sure we're not reporting on ourselves or on our own tech, the way they kind of danced around it, you could tell they were pushing to make sure we didn't have this topic used as a cover story anymore. If we do have operations at play to conceal our, known tech or what we're developing, and if it is somehow seen or leaked by the public and it is known to be ours, I got the impression they're not going to turn around and use the old, oh, it must be a UFO as the cover story. That's off the table now. And in a way that protects experiencers as well. If this arm of our government that is investigating this, we have heard that they dive into this civilian world of ours. You know, they're not saying it publicly yet, but we all know the stories about the suits showing up, whether it's in our country or another country. So maybe with this new relief of this stigma and the seriousness of wanting the reports to come in, and us not getting laughed at every time this subject is brought up, or snickered every time UFO is said on the news, like, hopefully that adds to protection, you know, in the days to come. So,
And I've noticed the change in the media as well.
Yeah.
They're not making it as cartoony anymore. Like when they're reporting it, it has a little bit more of a darker tone to it and a little bit
Yeah.
more seriousness to it. So even the media is starting to
I
come on
haven't heard
board.
the X-Files
You
theme.
know what? I was actually listening to Katie Page, who is on a radio program. She messaged me today. She's like, "Hey, dude, I'm just about to go on this radio show." I said, "Hey, can we tune on in? I'd like to hear what you have to say." And they played the Twilight Zone music.
Oh no.
Okay. But the host actually came on and said, "Hey, Katie, I'm sorry for that. We're not trying to make fun with the music." And there was actually an apology. That's the first time I've ever heard that. I know every show that I have been a guest on major media and major radio stations, it has always been the X-Files theme song, Star Trek, Doctor Who, or whatever it may be. But this host of this show that had Katie on there was actually apologetic for thinking that maybe the music was making fun of the subject matter. And I think, Jason, that with today's hearings, we're probably going to see, maybe not long term, but at least a maturity in radio show hosts, television show hosts, producers who are now looking at this as a topic of discussion for further programming. And that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just want the laughing at the podiums to stop. You know, if our spokespeople for certain branches of government can't even stop laughing when a question is posed from the media pool, that incites me every single time. It just does. Like, nobody likes to be laughed at by their own government.
No, but the idea that we are, as we got about 8 minutes to go here before the bottom of the hour, the idea that we are getting closer to the seriousness of the way this is being covered. Like, look, everyone, this is front page news, not only in the United States, here in Canada, over in the United Kingdom and Europe and other places. This, if we take another positive out of today, and trust me, I'm very negative about what happened today, very negative. But if we take a positive out of it, we can look to the fact that the mainstream media actually did their job and reported this seriously. And I know I talked to a few people in Vancouver today. I talked to people around the country. Daniel Otis gave us a shout out on Twitter after CTV News had put up their latest story about that, you know, basically saying, "Hey guys, blame that spaced out radio for Lou Elizondo hooking up with the Canadian government. That's where I got my information from." And you know what? This is the way the ball starts rolling. And we got to keep that momentum. And I think that momentum, we'll see how long the delay is between the next set of hearings, or more importantly, what leaks out of the closed hearings, which we're going to have to watch people like Brian Bender for that, because we know he has sources. And then we've got to see what's going to happen on the other fronts, the Canadian front, the UK front, because this, if it did anything, opened up the discussion. It didn't open up Pandora's box, but it sure as hell opened up the discussion. Who wants to jump in?
I'll jump in. I mean, you know, this did, just the maelstrom and the will docs being brought up, that opens up the next briefing. But even before then, we have reports coming in. aren't they're due every 6 months, and everybody was disappointed with what had been reported in this first round. So maybe with this good first hearing, I know in the spirit of it being a good first hearing, yeah, maybe we'll get something good in this next report, and then we'll have the best second hearing.
Who knows? Melinda, what's your thoughts?
No, I agree with what Nicole just said. I think it's, as I said earlier, it's a good first step. That I think obviously it sounded to me in every way like there was going to be more. In fact, it so much sounded like more was coming when they quickly ended at was an hour and a half or whatever. That was a shock to me, because it sounded like they were just starting to work towards more. But then I thought, okay, then there's obviously things going on in the closed door session. So that was the continuation. And it sounded to me like there were going to be more hearings. I mean, yes, with the Wilson document information and the Malmstrom event being brought up, that sounded like, and having those entered into the record as they were sounds to me like building towards another hearing. And I think it was a good first step. I was pleasantly surprised. It was a little more than I wanted. Yes, there were things I was disappointed about, no doubt, and frustrated about. But at the same time, I thought, okay, it's a first step. We at least got what we got. It certainly wasn't a step back. There's no major, this isn't a back step. This is a movement forward. It was a hearing for the first time, like I said, in 50 years. And I think we're definitely going to expect more to come. So, yeah, I maybe I'm choosing to see it better, granted I had problems with it, like I said, but I also, as I said earlier, I think it was a huge wake-up call for the field to realize what's still being lied about, what isn't, and that Congress cares. That it appeared to me that those Congress members did care about what they were doing, and were disappointed in the responses. And so I think that's going to lead to additional hearings.
Melinda, in that same vein of thought, do you think there was a little bit of playing the nice guy going on in the public side of things? Do you think they were going to heat things up in the second part, the closed hearings? I mean,
yeah, maybe because I agree. I think
to get heated. So.
Yeah, I agree, Nicole. That crossed my mind today. I felt like they didn't want to make these two guys look like the bad guys. Mm-hmm. They need to work with them. They've clearly, it's a shot across the bow. We're paying attention to what you're doing. We're paying attention to what you're coming across, and we expect more. I think that was clear. Yeah. And I think to not paint them to be bad guys, to say we're interested in what you're coming up with, and we want to see what you come up with in the future, and what you come up with on these subjects that are of interest to us and the American people. I agree with you, Nicole. I think it was like you said, putting forth a good public face about what the Pentagon Department, the what are we calling it? What are they calling it? The OMSOG, the OMSOG, as a way to pronounce it. Okay, whatever. The OMSOG and what they're doing.
One at a time, guys. We're bleeding over each other.
Oh, sorry, but again, what the OMSOG are doing, and Nicole, I think you're right on it. That they're putting forth a good public face, and that may be more of the finger wagging of what Congress expects from them was said in the closed door. We can only hope, but without knowing that, we're left only speculating. But I agree with you. I think it was to try to put forth a public face. And yeah, it was limited. I don't want everyone to think I was fully on board with it. I mean, it was limited. There were lies said, no doubt. And but I think it's a step in the right direction, and it's promising of more to come. That's what I think.
All right, we got 25 seconds left, so I'm going to get you guys to all hold on here before we head into the final half hour. What happens next? That is where we got to figure out where the ping pong ball bounces when we return on Spaced Out Radio, as we continue on talking for the final half hour tonight about the UFO topic coming into the public eyes with the U.S. Congress hearings in Washington, D.C. earlier today. Did you like it? Did you not? Let us know on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. We'd appreciate that. Your opinion means so much to us. Jason Guillemette from UAP Studies Podcast, Nicole Sakach, Melinda Leslie. We got up till the top of the hour on Spaced Out Radio. The topic continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
Jason, I want to hear you say some more, Jason.
What's that?
When we go back, I'm curious, more of your view on this.
I love topics like that. I could just sit back and just listen to everybody because it's great.
But I feel like I'm starting to really repeat myself, and I don't want to,
Hey, you guys, they did say they're going to change the name. He did. Carson, I think, was like, we're going to change that name. Like,
it's
so maybe
horrible.
we should start submitting them.
Unfortunately, it's not theirs to do. The Pentagon came up with that, so
well, they got to change that.
But see, those names got to be approved. You think there's like a chain of how they approve names?
We need to submit some good ones to them so we can pass that up the pipeline. Like, what do we want this called?
Epic Space. Yeah.
The AIMSOG is really. Every time they said that today, I'm like, oh God.
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. You know what? You might as well throw up a bingo card. Here's a t-shirt idea. We'll throw up a bingo card t-shirt with all the different names that we could, figure out, with, UFO or UAP. I mean, they can't even figure that part out. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
And Dave, I don't want you to forget about this, but we do have to talk about this building relationships with NASA, because I know you love talking about the skeletons that NASA has. So,
are you trying to get me fired up right in the final half hour here?
I am. I wanted to bring it up like an hour ago, and I forgot because I was like, "Ooh, we got to get Dave talking NASA." So,
I love him and I hate him at the same time. Love him.
Same here, though. And did you guys see Neil deGrasse Tyson's statement today?
Yeah, being a dink as usual.
No, I didn't see it.
Seriously, like, why does he even have to comment?
Basically, he said, if aliens were here, you wouldn't need congressional hearings to try and sell us on the topic.
Oh.
Totally the wrong attitude, because as a scientist, he should be talking about the data and saying, we need the science. Where's the data? That's what he should be saying.
Yeah,
he shouldn't be bad mouthing the political part.
Avi Loeb has the same fucking degree as him. Okay, yeah. He does.
Oh.
Well, we're in commercial break here, so I can swear. But he has the same degree, same educational status, except Neil deGrasse Tyson has the television candor to be the scientist of America. That's the only difference, that he's got the blue check mark and Avi Loeb doesn't. Neil deGrasse Tyson is calling every scientist in the SCU a dumb mofo for believing in this topic, because they have looked into the research and like what they saw. Case in point, Simon Fraser University here in British Columbia. Okay, they have a gentleman named Paul Kingsbury, where 7 years ago, Paul Kingsbury decided to do a study and got a grant for $184,000 to try and figure out why people chase UFOs, Bigfoot, and the paranormal. He went in as a complete skeptic, not believing anything at all, thought it was all horse shit. He is now one of the heads of the SCU. He is a full-on believer. He has eyewitnessed UFOs, ghostly activity, and been in areas where they have found Sasquatch evidence here in British Columbia. That's what a scientist does. A scientist's job, whether or not you believe anything, is irrelevant. You have to go where the evidence is. And the problem with deGrasse Tyson is he is conducting opinion. Somebody in his position should not be conducting opinion. That's wrong. I'm not even a scientist. I failed science in high school. Okay? And I know that shit.
He could at least follow suit with Sagan. I mean, they bought Sagan's statements. Like, what's with DeGrasse's terrible statements? Like, they just don't even.
I tell you, he needs.
They don't even have the mystery of space exploration.
They're so limited. They're so pathetic, so limited in their thinking. There's no creative or expansive thinking there. As a scientist, I want my scientists to be explorers, to say, what do we not know? Yes. Let's look into what we don't know. Let's explore.
Melinda, I need to cut you off there. We're going to get going here in 10 seconds. Thank you to all the super chatters tonight. Very much appreciate it. I will name you off at the end of the show, and we're going to go with the final half hour right now. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you sticking on around, talk some UFOs with us. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me this favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, we introduce our panel. Jason Guillemette from UAP Studies Podcast, Nicole Sakach, Melinda Leslie, and we continue on right now. Now, Nicole, you wanted to get into a touchy subject because it came up during the hearings today. And that was regarding NASA. Why must you piss me off like this? Well, half hour of the show.
Before we just roll it into just NASA talk, I do want to bring up that they brought up the FFA and NOAA about 3 or 4 times, along with NASA, and building these relationships with them is a positive thing to gain their data and expertise. But yes, I want to incite Dave's NASA riot feelings because,
look, I'm grinding my teeth as I say this. Okay, I'm grinding my teeth because NASA, out of anybody, should really shut the hell up. And let me explain why. You got Bill Nelson, the head of NASA, granted he's new, coming out talking about UFOs being here, talking about extraterrestrials visiting the planet. And yet for 50 years plus, NASA has denied that almost every launch has been followed by a UFO. They have been accused of doctoring photos and scrubbing photos. From Apollo right to now, They have doctored audio. They have cut
Silence
feeds to the,
astronauts.
they have cut feeds to the International Space Station when anomalous objects have been flying by. They have forewarned their astronauts not to talk about things like this. How about the emergency line with Neil Armstrong? They are here, they are on the hill, and they are watching us. What about that? What about, yes, Houston, there is a Santa Claus. They have shut down their own astronauts, whether it's Edgar Mitchell, whether it's I forget Mr. Cooper's name, okay, and others who saw anomalous objects while in space. That's not fair. John Glenn saw it as well. And for NASA to come out and try and play this field like we're stupid, you guys have had 60 years to look into space. Okay? You supported a SETI program which allegedly found nothing. Okay? How about cleaning out your own bloody closet before you start talking about UFOs and making us look like we're dummies? I don't like it. I can't stand NASA for that. Cannot stand them. Nicole, you got me fired.
I want to segue this into a little bit of our Neil deGrasse Tyson talk, because, okay, why can't we just acknowledge the golden records out there? And we may be getting visits back because of that. Like, I mean, wasn't that the whole purpose of sending the golden record out there with our nude bodies and 1,000 ways to say hello? And
yeah, we're sending up new nude bodies. That's our response to potential aliens. Well, Billy, you just said a month and a half ago that you think the bloody aliens are here and that they're visiting us. Why do we need to send up these stupid coins that show naked bodies that finally have a man that is made like a man? Okay, like, come on. This is
got
ridiculous.
dad bod.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, just a dad bod. This is what to expect when you land.
But NASA should be embarrassed, and nobody has ever called them out for that. They need to be embarrassed. They need to have some egg on their face. They need to say that they have been absolutely dirty in the UFO game, because they're the ones who've been covering it up just as bad as the Air Force and the Navy.
This is why I think it's going to be difficult for this UAP task force, is saying that it's laying down all these foundations and relationships with all these organizations, but all these organizations that had, serving their own self-interest for quite some time, keeping the public, like we know about NASA, we know about the Air Force, which is quite silent on that. Even the Department of Energy, the fact that they got them on board, because we know from the past that the Department of Energy is, sometimes involved in crash retrievals and things of that nature. So the fact is, I don't know if these all these different alphabets are going to play ball with the new department. They're going to need to prove themselves first before they get any real valid data from these organizations. Wishful thinking, but again, I just think it's a case of the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
Very true. But in NASA's case, both their hands are tied behind their back while both are covering their eyes, and their next set of arms is covering their ears, and their fourth set of arms is covering their mouth. Morons.
Do you think we'll hear the line that we heard out of Bray and Moultrie today, that the excuse will be that they haven't been told by somebody important to specifically look at this stuff? So that's what I kind of think we'll hear that line again.
I want to hear Bill Nelson come out and say that NASA has checked our closets and we found some anomalous stuff that needs to be included in these next hearings. We need Bill Nelson to have the cojones to actually open up the secrets of NASA and explain that this is what we need to do. Okay, this is what we found. This is what we found on the moon. This is what our satellites have taken pictures of while going past Titan or Saturn or Venus or wherever. This is what Hubble has found while taking incredible shots of other universes. Okay, give me the damn aliens.
Well, we are talking about NASA and space, and they brought up NOAA, and that's, underwater space. And man, did they zip it up fast with that. They're like, oh,
yes, they
session.
did.
Oh, close session.
Yeah.
Oh, close session. Don't even breathe again. Move it along. So that kind of information, I mean, I don't know, maybe, we're saying let's put the pressure on NASA, but we need to equally so with NOAA.
Well, I mean, look, NASA, the unidentified submersibles are rather new over the last decade or two. NASA's had 60 years of BS, okay, and excuses. They need to be held accountable. And I would love to hear somebody talk about holding them accountable. Nobody ever holds NASA accountable. They spend billions upon billions on rockets that are, I mean, now we see Elon Musk kind of doing it the same way, that are antiquated for today's technology, as far as we're allegedly to believe. Like, where are we going? What are you hiding? Okay, more astronauts need to come out. We've seen the astronauts. How many more astronauts should there be to come out before they start believing them? The astronauts who have come out that are still alive, along with the testimonies of the deceased, like Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the number 6 man to walk on the moon, need to come out in any future public hearings. The media, being as stupid as they are on this subject, needs to realize that this is a major play in the UAP story. Just like Roswell is, just like Phoenix is, just like Kecksburg or Marfa or wherever. Okay? NASA has to open up, call their shots. I'm pissed about this. Thanks, Nicole.
I love it.
Yeah,
You're welcome, everybody.
you brought up a good point, because it's not just are these things in our airspace, but if these things have a base in the back of the moon, or a city, for crying out loud, in the back of the moon, we'd want to know about it. That's sort of where we're going next. We keep talking about the moon. Canada just recently is looking at laws for criminalization acts in space, because we don't have laws yet that protect astronauts in space. Once you're off Canadian soil or off planet, are there laws? So we're starting to implement laws for the moon and stuff like that, for crying out loud. So that is our next step. After that is Mars. So we want to know, like, if it's not just are they in our airspace, are they in our water, but are they behind the moon? Are they on the moon like they were in 1960s when we went there? We want to know. That's important information. I totally agree with you. NASA has been way too quiet on this. And as for the live feeds, there's enough live feed footage that cut off, or the minute something comes into view, that you could probably try them in court if you needed to, because there's enough of those videos out there that it's funny. Yeah, the fact that they've been quiet this long and still quiet on the issue when this is now blowing up, it's crazy.
Even the live feed that they don't ever cut, the one that is continuous, and there's the groups that pull footage off of that and find material that just goes unacknowledged at all. There's never even a comment or a, ooh, that's interesting, we'll look into that, nothing.
Yeah.
So, but they'll talk about that space blanket.
Or fixing that leak that they got inside the space station, but they don't talk about anything else that goes by there. No.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so upset about NASA. So upset. I just honestly, if Bill Nelson was here, I'm afraid for him because he's old and probably a little frail. But I want to shake the man. I want to shake him.
Well, think about how quiet NOAA is, though. I mean, come on. They don't ever leak anything, nothing. And you know what we hear about, whether it's in the Atlantic or the Pacific, they have to have some answers. Their silence is eerie silence. It's like gives you the creeps when you think about it.
I know that, but there's also megalodon out there, and I ain't dealing with those sharks that could take me down in one bite. Okay, so I'm not worried about the underwater UFOs because eventually megalodon will take care of them. All right, but up in space or wherever they're coming from, Melinda, you've been awfully quiet about NASA.
Well, no, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I do appreciate that Bill Nelson's made a bunch of recent comments saying that we, know them or believe them to be extraterrestrial a number of times, and some lengthy interviews. But then I even though I enjoy him saying that, I turn around and go, wait a second, we're talking NASA. They have a tremendous amount of evidence. It's like, dude, if you're saying that and you believe that, then why not look at the actual evidence you guys do have? And so I end up, having this kind of mixed feeling about it, realizing, I say, Dave, I agree with you. They are definitely withholding. They definitely have a lot more evidence and things that they've seen over the years. And it went, and again, I think it was it you, Nicole, or Dave, or both of you saying, when are they going to be held accountable? They need to be held accountable. If all the data is being gathered by the DOD on this, then okay, we need to know what NASA has. Let's gather their accounts. What have like you were saying, Nicole, what have the astronauts seen? Absolutely. And as you guys are sitting here saying this about NASA, I keep thinking of one of the obvious misses going on here, and Congress needs to have a hearing just to say where's their data is not only NASA, but the obvious here. So Dave, I'm kind of switching the story here a little bit, is the Air Force. Now, I came onto this interview so late. Did everyone cover how that was missing from the hearing? That's a big missing information, is no one ever brought up the Air Force. And Congress needs to ask these guys, these two guys, and everyone associated with this new department, again, AIMSOG, they need to say, where is the Air Force data? Where's the Air Force information? And the thumb screws need to be put on that. And again, you guys can clue me in if something was said before I came in tonight.
No, we didn't talk too much about that, but yeah, the Air Force is always quiet. You never hear anything from the Air Force. And that's why even when we're talking about the different departments, that it seems like NASA's in charge of space. You got the Air Force in charge of, the main area over the United States. And then you got different departments running what's underwater. So again, everything's compartmentalized. I'm having a hard time with that word. And that's the hard fact, is that this spreads out. It leaks out more than just a little UFO group that the Congress is putting together. This is so huge that you need a large organization, right?
Isn't their directive, maybe I missed this, but I'm pretty sure their directive is to get all these groups to provide their information. Isn't that what they're supposed to be doing? I wanted the congressman to say, where's the data from these different organizations, from these different branches of intelligence and the different branches of the military? Where is that data? And why isn't that being considered? When Bray said there were 400 more cases, they're talking about pilots, naval pilot cases. Where's all the Air Force pilot cases? Right. Where's the NASA astronaut cases? How come that data is not being included in this? And when is it going to be?
Yeah, good point.
What did she say? What was that?
The
FAA.
FAA.
And the FAA, yeah.
I keep thinking about the O'Hare incident. And every time they say the FFA, I'm just like, oh, well, we know what they do with their data.
Yeah, so you have all the civilian pilots too, but even if they're just focusing on the military stuff and the intelligence community stuff so far, where's the data from these other organizations? And Congress needs to ask that. That's what needs to be included in the hearings. And maybe they did in the closed door session, but in the public session, we didn't hear that, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a real missed opportunity for them to get into. When, you know, even if they got an answer, at least to say, when are they going to start getting that data? You know, it's one thing to say, well, we're focusing just on the military or just on the Navy right now, but at least if they'd admitted that and said, when are we going to get the rest? And Congress needs to say, we demand this by a certain time. You know, I again, Nicole, you said it earlier. I think they're trying to just put out a public face to John Q. Public about, oh, well, we're, you know, they're just starting up and they're just getting going. And, you know, I think it was a lot of letting them off the hook because they didn't want to finger wag this early. That's the only thing that makes sense to me here. That's, you know, that's got to be the only thing that makes sense. And that will come, you know, at least God, I certainly hope that comes. And I hope Congress says, we demand the rest of this information.
And they might be giving them some time to build these relationships and build these data sets, like they said several times. So
yeah,
that could have been some slack, you know, but that's also what I expect to be asked at the next hearing. You know, how are those
like
relationships
I said,
developing?
Schiff was in there. That suggests to me it didn't miss me, and I heard Bassett talking about it today, that you know, that sets up for future hearings amongst Congress. And then, of course, then there'll be Senate hearings, you know, because this was Rubio and Gillibrand's amendment, and you know, so
that's a good point.
Hopefully this is just the start of more to come. I certainly hope so.
Well, we're going to have to see what happens as we get about 1 minute to go here. We're going to have to see what happens with Rubio and Gillibrand, because they cannot be happy as of what came out today. There's a lot of deflection, a lot of conjecture, and they're the ones who've been pushing for this, especially Senator Gillibrand. I can't wait for her to drop the gloves on this. This is going to be a gong show. This is a heavyweight going against a flyweight.
Yeah.
It's going to be nuts. And you know what? If there is a silver lining out of today, is that the heavyweights haven't spoken yet. And that is something that we get to look forward to. And hopefully they don't even put the gloves on. Let's go bare knuckles on this. You know, the good old-fashioned way at center ice. Melinda Leslie, Nicole Sakach, Jason Guillemette from UAP Studies Podcast. Along with earlier tonight, we had Katie Page, we had Cristina Gomez, we had Science Bob, a.k.a. Dr. Bob McGwier, and from the Liberation Times, we had Chris Sharpe. What a panel. As you can see, we're just in the mix, throwing the news out, what we liked, what we didn't like. If you want to comment on this, do it. If you're on our YouTube channel, do it below after the show. Go onto our social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or even our Facebook page, because we want to know your answers. This affects each and every one of you out there. It affects every 7.8 billion of us on this planet. We know they're here. We just deserve the answers to know what they're here for and where they're coming from. What a great panel tonight. Want to say thank you to everyone for coming on in, because we got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and S.O.R Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have Spaced Out Radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your S.O.R swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.